Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily on a glorious Wednesday here in the Peg. Great day to get outside and a great day to check out some playoff hockey. Manitoba Moose and the Milwaukee Admirals begin their best-of-3 preliminary series tonight at Canada Life Centre. I will be in attendance, and I do think we've got a pair of tickets to send a WSTer to the game tonight. We'll get some details on that from Remo when he joins us in just a minute. Braden Yeager and Brad Lambert will both be in the lineup. We'll get to the clean line lines for the Manitoba Moose coming up in a bit, and Dan Fink's going to join us a little later on to set up this series and game one tonight. We'll be all over the National Hockey League playoffs as well. What a war we've got brewing between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens. Another just awesome hockey game filled with a lot of nasty, as you would expect from any playoff game involving the Tampa Bay Lightning. Moe Khan's in Montreal. He will join us. We'll hit a few topics with Mo, but does certainly focus in on the Habs Lightning series coming up, and get to the action last night right out of the gate when Remis joins me as well for the start of the program. But the big story around the Winnipeg Jets is moving into the offseason, the multiple options for the club to attempt to reverse the fade of the 25-26 season and get back into the playoffs and contending for a Stanley Cup. Murat Ates is a great piece in The Athletic on a number of paths and options for the Winnipeg Jets. Murat will join us for an extended convo coming up a little bit later on in the program, and after that, we'll set up game one with Dan Fink, play-by-play voice of the Manitoba Moose, and take a look at this series. And Pat Gregoire from Coolbet joining us a little later on as well. We'll make a few picks, and we'll also get to the Zurich Classic and the PGA Tour this week, kind of a unique event. Listen, welcome to everybody in chat. Sorry about the delayed start. You should have seen the first time we did it. It was awesome. I hope I was able to raise to the level of the first intro. Had a little bit of an issue, but we're good to go. Hit that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. And all of you podcast listeners, great to have you joining us as well. Also want to thank the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen each and every day. Of course, our friends at Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports. We got a special Chud's Power Poll coming up in just a minute on former Jets in the playoffs, as well as Cleanline, plumbing, heating, and electrical. Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Breezy Bend. We'll be swinging them if this weather holds up in about a week or so. Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Manitoba Battery, the Tri-Hospital Lottery, which is online right now. Get your tickets at trihospitaldream.com. St. Vital Dental Center, Rolly's Transfer, Uptown Alley, Manitoba Building Trades, and the Manitoba Federation of Labor. And, of course, we will get to a why not question of the day from Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Michael Remis, what a night of playoff action we had last night.
Yeah, it was fantastic. All the games. I'm not sure if people are watching. I see some in chat. Still mourning the Jets season. I think you can do that, but also enjoy the intensity of playoff hockey. Yesterday, 2 overtime games. LA, Colorado. Montreal, Tampa, which has been a highlight. That series tied 1-1. The fans in Buffalo, and also Utah winning the first playoff game in franchise history yesterday in Vegas. So that series tied 1-1 as well. So every series pretty close. A couple 2-0 ones, including tonight. The Flyers looking to go up 3-0 on the Penguins. Didn't see that one coming. So a nice slate of games here this evening.
Yeah, listen, we'll get to tonight's games coming up, but it is kind of feels like it's do or die for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And who saw that coming going into this series when Philly wasn't even in the playoffs about 2 weeks ago? But, dude, this Montreal-Tampa series has been an absolute war. And I think it was really beneficial for the Habs to get a taste of the playoffs last year because they are very much in the fight in this series against a team that most had as the favorite in the Eastern Conference. And a Tampa team that is no stranger to after the whistle business. and playing on the edge. That edge was crossed, or that line was crossed seemingly after half the whistles last night. You had so many extracurriculars, including a straight-up fight away from the scrum between Slafkovsky and Brandon Hegel, at which the bigger Slafkovsky got a few in and then got knocked down. Not knocked out, but knocked down by Brandon Hegel, who's just a... I mean, the Hegel story alone, when we're talking about getting players that can help you win and how you find these players, is just fascinating. A 6th-round pick that was not signed by Buffalo, signed by the Blackhawks, played in the American League, came up, and then after a great first couple seasons, and which earned him a contract of 3 years for $1.5 million, we all remember that trade, Remo, that I think caught everyone in the league off guard. 2 first-round picks for Hegel. Now, a big part of it was the player. The other part of it was the fact that he was signed to a $1.5 million contract for 2 more years, which fit in perfectly with Tampa's cap situation. But, there is so... it just looks like a different game from what we watched the majority of this season. And, even a lot of these Western Conference series. I don't think Utah's been in anything remotely close to what they're in with Vegas right now. The Anaheim-Edmonton series almost seems like it's being played in a different league than, for instance, Montreal-Tampa. But the bottom line is we saw a lot more physicality, more fighting and whatnot in the league, and that sort of grew towards the end of the season. And in some series, especially in the East right now, that physicality is a huge part. And to the Habs' credit, a younger, more skilled team, they are not backing down from the Tampa Bay Lightning despite losing an OT last night.
Yeah, Brandon Hale, I remember when that trade went down. He was having a breakout season with Chicago in 21-22, 37 points in 55 games. I know they made the trade for, they got 2 first-round picks, Boris Kachuk and Taylor Radish, sending away Hegel and 2 fourth-round picks. But I remember thinking at the time, isn't this a guy that the Blackhawks could build around, to the future? And obviously they didn't think so and took the 2 first. But he was a huge bonus for Tampa. As you mentioned, the low salary, very attractive. But he's developed into quite a scorer. 90 points last year in 82 games, 74 this year in 71. He did sign an extension recently, so they have him locked up long term. But that was a very shrewd move by Tampa to find some elite young talent at low salary and trade futures. I think you do that trade again, multiple times over, trading 2 firsts for a player like
it all
Hegel.
depends on where you are in your contending window. And I mean, I kind of get it from Chicago's perspective at that point. I mean, Chicago was terrible. I think that year they were the worst in the league, if not one of the worst in the league. They weren't going to the playoffs. They had a guy that was found money for 2 more years. And then, of course, the question, if he does break out and he is a star player, what's the cost to keep him? And does that fit in within your window? And they ended up, listen, how many players are traded for 2 first-round picks? I mean, even for a Tampa team where those picks are probably going to be in the sort of the bottom 10, even if they don't have a great year. But Tampa's not regretting it right now. And that goes to show, some aggressive moves. And Tampa's done this before. They did it and it didn't work with the Tanner Jeannot trade.
Yeah.
They just simply went and identified a young player that they think fits in with them at a low salary and threw all of their picks to get him. Now, the Jeannot one didn't work, and they ended up moving on, and obviously they took the loss or the sunk cost on that. But the Hegel one is amazing. And now Hegel is a mainstay on Team Canada. We remember him dropping the gloves with Kachuk in the 4 Nations last year. And he was everywhere last night. And, on a season where Braden Point sort of took a bit of a step back and had some struggles, Hegel's one of the guys that, is just, he's everywhere. But I guess from the Habs side of things, what you're getting from Tampa. A lot of BS after the whistle. Corey Perry always trying to grab and fight the smallest guy on the ice. I mean, all of those things. There's a fine line between keeping your composure and not backing down. And I think so far, the Habs have really impressed me with what they've done. The other big thing is Tampa's going to take penalties, and you got to make them pay on the power play. That was a huge part of their Game 1 win. And this series is shaping up to be an absolute beauty now, 1-1 coming back home. And the Habs got to feel, man, we were so close to being up 2-0 against the favorites in the East.
Yeah, you have the lead going into the third period, and who else? Nikita Kucherov scores the tying goal and sends it to overtime, and J.J. Moser with the OT winner. And yeah, how Tampa has built their team is certainly interesting. Jake Gensel was, the big free agent signing when they made the tough decision for Steven Stamkos to go. But that's a team that's had to make tough decisions like that. Turning away a franchise player or trading huge assets to Tanner Jeannot, and instead of saying, hey, we traded a lot for this guy, we got to make it work, saying, you know what, we were wrong, this didn't work out, and moving on from Tanner Jeannot, who's playing a role on the fourth line with Boston. So Tampa, a very interesting team, how they've extended this Stanley Cup window where you thought, okay, maybe they were in decline. Now, there certainly are, not in their prime as a, dynasty organization, but hey, they're still competing. They were, second in the East. So this has been a fantastic series with Montreal, and I'm sure it'll ramp up at the Bell Center for the Montreal crowd. They're fired up, Huss.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that with Moe Khan coming up in just a few minutes when he joins us. I do see was it Comet said that this is we're going to get to the Jets spot coming up in a little bit. Blake G says Hegel would have never developed in the Jets system. I mean, we'll talk about that later on. I mean, that's kind of it's a hot take. I'm not sure that is true, but that's certainly a challenge the Jets need to get better at from where they have been before. There's plenty to get to. Buffalo and Boston don't like each other. I mean, tough loss for the Sabres last night. I mean, UPL letting that muffin in on the second goal, Remo, was just, such a disaster. How does that happen, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs? But that's 1-1 series on. That one will go 6 or 7 games, I'm sure. So we'll have it. And as you mentioned, I didn't see a lot of the Colorado Kings game. The Kings just sort of try to suffocate you in the neutral zone. And, hey, good on them for keeping it tight with Colorado. But they weren't able to win. They haven't generated much offensively. It's 2-0 Colorado. But maybe the most impressive win last night was the Utah Mammoth going into Vegas and beating the Golden Knights, Remis. They weren't able to hold the lead in Game 1. They got it in the third period and held it down. And, man, did you see the last 2.5 minutes when Vegas had the goalie pulled?
It was crazy.
You want to talk about prison rules. Vegas was hooking and slashing everything to keep the puck in. And in front of the net, it was green light. Do whatever the hell you want. There was whacking. There was tackling guys. It looked like something that was probably more like you'd see at WrestleMania on the weekend than in a National Hockey League game. But Utah's credit, they get the win. And, man, the Delta Center is going to be a madhouse, I think, when that series shifts to Utah for Games 3 and 4.
Yeah, that's a series that I thought was going to go, for a number of games. And Utah, they've got all this young talent, and they do have some Stanley Cup pedigree there with, they got Kevin Stenlund out at the end, former Cup winner. And you like what you see from their young stars, Logan Cooley getting the game winner, scoring for the second game in a row. Dylan Guenther looking pretty good, had a 40-goal season. So I'm curious how this one is going to go. But it's been a great series, and Vegas, they're pushing, but it was just a slight difference there. Late goal from Utah, and they almost tied it up at the end. But, Utah's getting in the way all the shots, and as you said, it is prison rules at times in the playoffs.
We will set up the lines in the Moose game a little later on. Dan Fink's going to come on. Do we have the power poll of the former Jets, Reem?
Yes, I do have a power poll.
So pull this up. We got to do a power poll for our friends at Chud's Power Sports at Gimli, corner of Highway 8 and 231. The bikes are back, the ATVs, the RVs, boats. Get ready to dominate summer. Pop by and see the Derminator and the great people at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli. Now, we put this together. It was kind of funny. The former Jets in the playoffs. And, you know, if you are someone that's looking for a team to sort of root for based on maybe a few guys that were favorites of yours, there is quite a little bit. Now, Mikey Eyssimont hasn't played in the playoffs for Boston, so they didn't cut it. We all hate the Minnesota Wild, so even with Zach Bogosian there, they're not getting on the list. Number 5, though, the Anaheim Ducks, Remis, with 2 former Jets playing right now a big role going into tonight's game, too.
Yeah, if you're looking for a reason to cheer for a team with former Jets, I mean, Anaheim Ducks have got Jacob Trouba finding a home with Anaheim after being traded as the captain of the Rangers. Top pair, right side D, young and exciting team. Maybe you're someone who hates the Oilers. You're sick of them. Why not cheer for former Winnipeg Jet Jacob Trouba? They also have another former member of the Jets organization in Jeffrey Viel. Pretty good season, Huss. 3 goals in 35 games. He's a tough guy, can drop the gloves. He had 10 points this year with Anaheim. So there's 2 former Jets on the
Did
Anaheim
more than
Ducks.
Nyquist in half the games and is tough.
I don't want to pile on Gus anymore.
Listen,
any
the
more
Gus
than we have.
comparisons are inevitably going to happen.
It's too easy. Like it's too easy. But yes, Jeffrey Viel did have triple the goals of Gus Nyquist this season in a 4th-line role, playing 35 games.
Now, LA Kings, a few former members of the organization as well.
LA Kings, watching the game, couldn't help but notice former Jet Yoel Armia headlining that group. Also, former Manitoba Moose and member of the Winnipeg Jets organization, Jeff Malott, making an impact. But one other deep cut Winnipeg Jet, and tell me if this counts, Anton Forsberg playing great in goal for the LA Kings. Okay, got picked up off waivers, didn't play a game for the Jets. However, he was there long enough to have Winnipeg Jets goalie gear. And when Ottawa claimed him, this is what he looked like, Huss. He's got Jets gear there. Look at those the pad color. That's the reverse retro. He's got a Jets mask. That I know he didn't play a game, but that counts. Here, check out this picture of Mark Scheifele shooting on him.
Anton Forsberg as a Sen wearing Jets goalie gear and a Jets goalie mask. I mean, that is... we were talking about this earlier today, and I spit out my drink when he dropped former Jet Anton Forsberg. And technically, no. And he was one of those quarantine boys, Comrie, where they were just getting bounced around, picked up off waivers, spending 10 days in a hotel, practicing a couple times, getting picked up again, and moving on. But yes, Anton Forsberg as part of the Kings. Love Jeff Malott. He's a UFA at the end of the year. He's got some bite to his game. Be interesting to see where he goes. Utah Mammoth at number 3. Of course, Brandon Tanev is there. You've also got Nate Schmidt, popular player, and our guy Kevin Stenlund, always out there for those final face-offs. Number 2, to me, I think 1 and 2 is different. There's big-time Ehlers fans that would love to see him get some success. Ehlers with Carolina at number 2. And, of course, the trade that happened at the deadline. Buffalo Sabres. Big Stan, who's looked pretty good when he's not playing with other former Jet Luke Schenn. Schenn's in the press box. Stanley's in the lineup right now. Buffalo Sabres 1-1 in their series. And Carolina, of course, up 2-0 against Ottawa. Extra day off. No Sens Hurricanes today. That one goes tomorrow. But there's your Chud's Power Sports Power Poll for teams to watch if you're looking for former Jets in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I should mention, we forgot Jansen Harkins on the Anaheim Ducks as well. Not in the lineup, but on the
Yes.
roster. That is one. And honorable mention, Patrik Laine, not really part of Montreal, but he's on kind of technically on the roster.
Yeah, I think he's on IR. He was apparently out skating earlier, but it looks like, well, we're going to ask Moe Khan about Patrik Laine and about the series that we've seen so far. That is coming up in just a moment. A trip to Montreal, Moe Khan next, and then Murat Ates of The Athletic with an extended conversation on the Jets' decisions to make and paths to take in the offseason. It's all coming up as WST continues.
Hey, Bob, you hear the news?
I can't listen to the news, Daryl.
This is different.
Oh, it's so negative.
Not this time. Manitoba's got these new jobs agreements. And when the government builds things like new schools and hospitals, they'll hire Manitoba workers first.
Really?
Creating good jobs with union standards and more apprenticeships for Manitobans. And we'll get rid of those out-of-province license plates on job sites.
Keeping our money working for Manitobans, eh?
You betcha.
Well, that's how it should work.
I knew you'd like it.
A message from Manitoba's Building Trades and Federation of Labor.
Spring into good times at Uptown Alley and eat, drink, and play at the most fun spot in the city. You'll enjoy 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, a state-of-the-art arcade, and good times playing laser tag as well. And in addition, Uptown Alley features incredible food and drink options at their bistro. Pop down to Uptown Alley with your group or make it a party. It's the best place in Winnipeg for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults, and an amazing spot for corporate events where you just simply pick your activities, any of your add-ons, what you'd like to eat, and the Uptown Alley staff takes care of everything else. For more information, go to uptownalley.ca, book a lane at 488-0000, or pop down and see him at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Got a move coming up? Lean on our friends and longtime sponsors at Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving and storage in Manitoba. Now into their 7th decade with over 60 years of experience, family owned and operated. Head over to their website at rollies.com to find out all about their services serving Winnipeg and southern Manitoba. In the top right corner, you can click on Request an Estimate. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then simply let them know when you're moving, where you're moving to, and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly and get you a great quote to get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they've been famous for now for over 60 years in Winnipeg. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more and request an estimate today on your next move at Rollies.com. Has it been a minute since you've been to the dentist? If it is, our pal Doc Harry and the wonderful staff at St. Vital Dental Center would love to see you. They've been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital for years, and have now moved into a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. They'll handle customers and clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services from cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. Dr. Terry and the gang can absolutely do it all. We'll do it with a smile on their face and make your smile look even better than it's ever been. Go to stvitaldental.ca online to make an appointment. Pop into St. Vital Dental, get that girl taken care of, and tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. All right, before we talk Jets with Murat Ates, let's head out to Montreal and welcome in our pal Moe Khan, who joins us now. Mo, what is the vibe like in Montreal with the Habs going toe-to-toe with the Tampa Bay Lightning through the first two? How are you, buddy?
I'm well, Andrew. If you saw my friend's group chat, yes. What was being OG. And I'm going to go PG because I know we're daytime programming. But right now, the morale is a little bit what the bleep happened last week. Habs had a chance to take. They were in control of the game. When you think about it, right? They were down 1-0 on the Hegel's goal. Emotions were high for Tampa, which we expected. And we had the whole Royal Rumble left. That's when it turned for the Habs, right? Started to play better. But it felt like their backs broke when Kucherov got that time. It felt like it was Tampa's time was a treat. And now, all signs, all things are pointing towards Kirby Doc. About the Heat. Gallagher should be back in. And people line up. And, Andrew, I'll tell you this right now. Game 3 is on Friday, so there's a bit of a longer layoff than the teams here. And I think what you're going to see on Friday night is the emotional surge from the Habs in the first 10 minutes. They'll probably have the better chances, the higher quality of possession of puck and all that stuff. And they might even score a goal in the first 10 minutes, and that might lift the roof off the Bell Center. But once the first 10 goes by, I think Tampa should be okay. But I think this series will be 2-2 going back to Tampa next week.
What stood out is just how nasty this series has been. And we should not be surprised. I mean, Tampa has been battling with the Florida Panthers for years. We know the way that those teams have built, the way they play on the edge, and the way they will drag you into it. What have you thought about the way the Montreal Canadiens have responded to and handled the nonsense that comes with playing one of those Florida teams?
But, Andrew, and Remis will even agree with this to an extent. Playoff hockey is not about skill, right? It's about edginess, right? Are you able to take that risk to punch someone in the face?
It is a fight.
It is a fight. It's first one to 16 wins, but first one to win fights, right? And that's what Tampa did yesterday. They said, bleep everything that happened on Sunday. And look, with all due respect, Montreal punished Tampa on their mistakes on Sunday and won that fair and square. But in this game, Tampa said, we're going to change the blueprint of what we want to do. We'll get more physical. We'll challenge them to see if they can keep up with us punch for punch. And they did to an extent, and Slokosky got, applauded for taking a fight with Hegel and all that stuff, and that was fine. But you can't have your top guys in the box for 5 minutes. That can't happen in the playoffs. And that's why I think the alterations to this lineup for St. Louis will be key. We'll find out tomorrow and, of course, Thursday what the practice lines will be for this team. But as I said before, I think Gallagher might be a factor at some point because he'll bring that leadership, maybe that was lacking in Game 2, that edge that was definitely lacking for the Habs. But the one knock on this team, besides missing Dobson, Andrew, is that they don't really have a legitimate second-line center, which puts more pressure on the first line to produce. And that is where teams said to themselves, okay, cool, if you want to do that, we'll take out your first line to an extent, but beat us with lines 2, 3, and 4. And look, when they did this change to the first line back in around Olympic time, before the Olympics, it worked out well, and it proved their worth. But now it's different, Andrew, and they have to figure out plan B and making sure that's executed to become plan A for them for the weekend game.
It's so funny you mentioned the second line center because God knows that has been a topic that has been discussed here for many years, maybe no more so than now going into the offseason after the disappointing season the Jets have had. But there's so much excitement about some of these young players. Kapanen, Demidov. This has been, I think, a bit of an eye-opener for some of the younger, more green Habs with what comes along with the best of 7 against a team with the edge of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Agreed, because if this is the best of 1, I take the Habs. The Habs are a great best of 1 team. You look at the body work this year, they've won those type of games where they scored late or those 1-goal games. The best of 7, different animal, different beast. And that's where the Kapanens and Demidovs are going to have to learn how to grow and become veteran players at this point in year 2 of their development. And I think, look, the reality is Hab fans, just like Jet fans and every other Canadian team in Canada, right, they want them to win the Cup. I think Hab fans are entering that window now. Now, whether or not they win it this year, I don't think they will. I think they could be a 2-round team this year. But this is a huge off-season win-lose in this next round or 2 for the Habs and addressing that second-line center because it's the weight of gold for them because this alleviates the pressure off of Suzuki to do everything for this team to be the maestro, the backbone of this whole operation. And if Kent Hughes can go out there with Jeff Gorton and get that 2C, it makes this team much more dynamic and intriguing to watch out for next year because think about it, Andrew. Florida was off this year, and they'll reload, and they'll have a full off season to get healthy for training camp in September. And remember, there's 2 more games added with being an 84-game schedule. And here's the key factor for the Habs this year. Top 9 scorers, how many games missed between the top 9 guys? A total of 6. So really, things really fell their way this season. It may not be the case next year, but for the present moment right now, they're going to have to weather the storm, no pun intended, with Tampa in town. And I think they can take game 3, but I think it goes back tied at 2. And the key will be what they do with the 2C and supporting cast going towards the weekend games.
You know, in building teams and in the regular season, we often talk about speed and skill and all of that. I don't think it is a coincidence that the Habs have scored 6 goals in this series, and 5 of them have been by their 2 big forwards. Slavkovsky, who's a power play merchant and, is really engaged. And, of course, Josh Anderson, who for years at times has sort of sleptwalked through periods during the regular season. And people have said he's a bit of a liability. Is there a spot for him on the team? And then come playoff time, he's the one that is in there going toe-to-toe with Tampa. Do they need more? Do they need, your thoughts on, listen, Nick Suzuki, phenomenal. But when I think about a Cole Caulfield, certainly Demidov, who's new, how problematic is what some of the more skilled players on the Habs from what they're getting from Tampa right now? And, how can they maybe get more from those guys?
Well, that's a great question you bring up, Andrew. I think the key will be, how do they free up Caulfield? Because he hasn't been much of a factor so far through 2 games, right? Demidov has had some moments here and there. A couple angle shots maybe go differently if he has it properly in the stick and hits it perfectly pinpoint the accuracy that didn't happen for him yesterday. But if they can get value, and I'm saying they don't have to produce points, but when I say value, I think high efficient shifts from lines 2 and 3. That will just give a little doubt to Tampa, because you look at it right now, speed-wise, it's all about Montreal. Tampa is more of a heavy tone composition out there. And that's where they've been leaning on the Canadians. Can the Habs, with the last line change to work with now for the weekend games, can they get the edge or the advantage in terms of lines and just try to use the angles to their advantage? And I think, again, as great as the forwards have been in terms of line 1, maybe to line 2, missing Noah Dobson has hurt the back line, because he's that calming force. He's been that glue. And that was probably, people will say Kent Hughes has had some great acquisitions, but this is probably his best one he's had in terms of the dynamic and dynamism that he brings onto the rink at both ends of the rink. So I think for Dobson not to be there, and he may be back in 10 days, but who knows where the Habs will be by then, whether they'll be in game 6, 7, or maybe out of the playoffs. But they have to figure out how to replace that. And right now they don't have that. And it puts more pressure on Lane Hudson to be the A-man out there. So really, Andrew, it's angst right now for Habs Nation, but they believe going back to the Bell Center will be an X factor for them for Friday and Sunday.
Well, absolutely. And I've been sort of dreaming about a potential Montreal-Buffalo second round, just for what we would get as fans tuning into these games. At Buffalo, listen, they blew it last night, but they're still very much in that series.
Agreed.
But Mo, you're a Montrealer, you've grown up, you've seen some real highs. We know that, there were some real lows the last 5 years. Since they went to that COVID Cup, they missed the playoffs for 3 years in a row. Last year, I think they overachieved. No one expected them to get to the playoffs. They got in there. And I really thought that taste of the playoffs for some of the younger players would really help them. And I think we've seen that so far with them not being shell-shocked and being able to hang in there with Tampa. But Montreal as a city, we know there is a buzz unlike any other when the Habs are going. What has it been like just over the last week or so around the city? And what should we expect when we turn the TV on Friday night for Game 3?
Well, what you're going to see on Friday is a bunch of hooligans. That's the type of passion they'll have, right? They're going to riot if they win Game 3 on Friday night. But no, jokes aside, this city is buzzing. They know what's on the cusp of what they could be, right? And again, people talk about, look at the Maple Leafs when they came in 10 years ago with Marner and Matthews and all these guys, and they flamed out. Well, I'm not saying they're the same thing, but the way they've built up this franchise through the drafting, through the meticulous trading by Hughes and Gorton in the last few years, they're positioning themselves. And again, whether they go 2 rounds or 3 rounds, who knows? But I think this year will be deemed a success. Now, the biggest storyline going into the offseason is, does Martin St. Louis get his contract extension, which I think we all believe will happen because he's going into the last year of his deal. So I think that's the only hiccup right now in terms of the projection of what the team can be with St. Louis and whether he gets the extension, which will happen. But I think positive optimism right now. This is what the fans want to see. And they believe at some point, whether it's now or within the next 5 years, they should be in the Cup final. Whether they win one or not to be determined, but definitely more of a kumbaya here in Montreal the last, I say 8-9 months.
Yeah, it will certainly be as electric as anywhere in the National Hockey League come Friday night for that Game 3 between the Habs and the Lightning. Mo, looking forward to CFL season?
You know what? I was thinking about it today, and I'm probably gonna do another top 50 vote, right? And who would be the best CFL player? And I thought about it. I go, man, there's some dudes out there that could be number one. But it's gonna be fascinating. I think thinking about the West, I think it's wide open. I'm intrigued by your Bombers and what they can do this year. They went ham on signing guys to go for it one more time with Kolar's back. If you ask me today, Andrew, who I think will be in the Grey Cup, I think it would be Winnipeg and Montreal. I think both teams look locked and loaded in terms of the depth and talent that they have to work with. And it wouldn't be shocking to see them play each other in 7 months from today. So I think those are the two favorites coming into this.
You do a lot of U Sports work. Did you ever get a chance to see any of Taylor Elgersma when he was playing here?
Yeah, so it's funny because I know people were ripping on Elgersma for the whole UFL thing and trying to keep his NFL hopes alive. And I don't fault the guy. People were kind of, he should come up here and play for Winnipeg and blah, 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 and all that stuff. Yeah, look, CFL is there as a fallback option, which ends up being the case for Elgersma. But the kid has talent. And the kid knows the Canadian game very well. And look, he landed in a great spot in Winnipeg to learn and be under O'Shea and that whole staff on the offensive side of the ball here. And he doesn't have to play right away. And look, if he does get a chance to play in place of Kolarov, and you know Andrew very well, likely he will get hurt because he's been hurt here and there during the last few years of his pro career. But I'm not saying he's going to go out there and throw 45 touchdowns. No, but with time and development, if he buys into what is going to be thrown at him, he can be a solid quarterback in the CFL and come up with a couple of plays here and there. So I think for Bomber fans, definitely pay attention to what he does in training camp and perhaps be a part of the rotation down the road.
Well, for sure. I mean, I think the hope is that he is sort of the quarterback of the future that comes in. I mean, I'm with you 100%. I mean, I totally get what he was trying to do. You know, he obviously had some interest from NFL teams, played well at the Packers training camp last year, and was hoping for an opportunity to get on a roster to show what he could do. And when that didn't happen, here's the thing. I mean, this guy played his entire college career in Canada. He's got almost no 4-down tape. So the benefit of a guy like that playing in the UFL probably was far greater than literally anybody that had gone to that had gone through NCAA. So he was going to try to do it. Now, I don't know why the hell it didn't work out that he couldn't get his papers, because it sounded like they wanted to get him in the mix, and AJ McCarron was all frustrated that it didn't happen. But the bottom line, he's here right now. And from a Winnipeg Blue Bomber perspective, what I had always hoped is that we would at least have a year where he could be in that quarterback room and, you know, be tied to the hip with Zach Collaros every day. How does Zach prepare? And you'd learn about being, you know, the professional QB1, which is obviously his goal now that, you know, he's a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. And if this is Zach's last season, you do have a bit of a succession plan of a guy that knows the game more, has practiced at that high level, has just a part of everything in there. Because it's very rare, I think, we see quarterbacks come out of U Sports with the potential to be those starters. I mean, we've talked a lot about Nathan Rourke. Well, Nathan Rourke was an NCAA quarterback. Trey Ford's really been the only one that has had an opportunity to start a number of games as a U Sports QB. And Elgersma certainly seems like he is. I mean, as far as the package, he's 6'4", 6'5". He's a big guy. 6'6".
Yeah, he's tall.
So, needless to say, there's a lot of excitement about his arrival here in Winnipeg, and we'll see what happens coming up in a minute. Before we go, Mo, I always love having you on because we can hit a bunch of different topics.
You want to talk about Patrik Laine, where he's going to end up? He can.
Yeah. Well, actually, I did want to get to that before we got on there. Like, what is his situation? Like, is he just like he's on IR and they've said that he's not going to play, but he's still sort of trying to get out there and skate and be around the team? It doesn't sound like there's any future with him in Montreal.
No, look, Andrew, if you guys need a goal scorer, Patrik Laine is your answer.
He's available.
No, he's available. He will be. Like, he's on his last days as a Hab. And he knows it. The team knows it. He's just trying to keep himself in shape. I know there was videos of him practicing when the team was in Tampa, and he was in Brossard in the South Shore of Montreal, where the team office is. And look, will he factor in? Probably not, but it gives St. Louis a plan E, right? If plan A, B, C, and D don't work, we go plan E, which is Laine. But it is what it is. It's unfortunate for him because you saw firsthand Winnipeg, he was a marvel of a talent for the Jets. And this kind of went sideways for him, unfortunately, with mental health being what it was, and respectfully to him, going through what he had to go through. You wonder if he can ever get back to those apex years of dominance. And we hope he does, because he's a phenomenal player on the ice. And maybe another reboot will be required for him to find a fresh start somewhere else in the NHL or somewhere else in Europe for them.
It's sad. I mean, to think that a guy that came in as the number 2 overall pick, that had 80 goals as a teenager here in Winnipeg, is now plan E for a really young and inexperienced team in the playoffs. It's sort of stunning. And he never really got going ever in Montreal outside of that run that he had with all those power play goals that first time he came into the lineup.
And those power play goals is the reason why the Habs went to the playoffs last year. And he missed time. Remember, he got hurt in the preseason in his first year against the Leafs and missed 3 months, whatever it was. And it's just like he never found his rhythm. And some said he was a specialist, which to an extent he is on the power play, being on the left hash mark on the boards and all that stuff. But the reality is for him, you saw it when he was young. We saw it now in the prime of his career. There is talent, but cannot be extracted unless you want to buy into it. And I think he has to buy into himself first to be happy in his world, and then from there find a spot that's going to fit him and his family moving forward.
I'm going to get Remis's take on that when we finish up the segment. But before we go, how are you feeling about this upcoming World Cup? Specifically, I mean, we could get into the obscene ticket prices that criminal enterprise FIFA has established. The
non-profit.
Yeah, not non-profit criminal enterprise. Important to note that. I mean, I just saw that story yesterday about the people freaking out about the New York games. And listen, I've been to New York a number of times. I've been to MetLife Stadium. You know, you go to Penn Station, you spend $12.80 or whatever, and you get the ticket there and back. All of a sudden, for the World Cup, it's $150. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that are unsavory and that are turning people's stomachs. But we are hosting the World Cup. Canada is in it. There will be no Italy. It will be Canada, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and then Qatar and Switzerland in Vancouver. Just thoughts on the significance of this to Canadian soccer and the chances that our fellas might be able to go and make some noise against the world's best.
I think if Italy was there, they probably don't get out of group stage, but I think they do now. I think there'll be a second place team in that group. Bosnia will give them fits. Qatar will, whatever. They'll be Qatar. We'll figure out. But my question, and funny enough, having a conversation yesterday with some soccer guys, the question that comes up now is, how healthy will Canada be going into
big time?
That's going to be key, because now we're in the run of games, right? Like Bayern Munich's playing, they clinched Germany already, Bayern Munich, and now they got the key Champions League game coming up against PSG, right? So Alphonso Davies is going to play in those games, and they'll probably rest him here and there. So maybe by the fate of the fact that they won Germany already, that Alphonso will be probably less wear and tear going into camp. But that's going to be the key, is for this team, how healthy will they be going to camp? If they're going to be limping in, it might be problems. We know, Andrew, and everyone else knows, goal scoring will be a key issue for this program. They couldn't do it in Qatar in 22. They've had their highs and their very lows trying to score goals in the lead up to June in the World Cup and stuff. If they can't find goals, it would put a stress and a huge stress on this team to kind of hold serve, park the bus, and counterattack. But there's potential here. But this group is now entering the prime and now the back nine of the career. So they have to do it now or in 2030 to make some serious noise. But I think positive outlook is definitely something to look forward to for Canadian fans when it comes to Canada at the World Cup this year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Jonathan David's an established scorer. Promise David looked really good. It doesn't look like he's going to be ready. But, man, to see Davies back on the field with Bayern scoring, like I would almost argue that because of the amount of time that he's been off, being able to come back in and get into these high leverage games, playing in the Champions League playoffs, potentially the final, is actually a really good thing for Alfonso to get him ready. Because the bottom line is we're going to need him to be a star for this team. You hope that Steven Eustáquio will be able to go. It's great to see Kone back in. That Marcelo Flores, the dude we got from Mexico, to me is a bit of a wild card, and that Seeger. So, I mean, there is a lot of players that could be part of. I guess the challenge is for Jesse Marsch to take that best group out, put his best foot forward, and get 3 valuable points in the first game in Toronto before things head to the West Coast.
Yeah, they have to get max points before going to Vancouver. You're bang on with that, Andrew. And also the lineup, right? You mentioned some key guys who are limping in towards the final weeks of the season. He has to get the formation right and the lineup right. And that's going to take some time to figure out. And again, he'll have about, I think, 10 to 14 days before their first friendly game, which I believe is in Montreal against Ireland. So really, like, he'll have time to kind of maneuver and kind of experiment and reconfigure and consider what he has available to him. But if they're going to go far, Alphonso Davies will be the reason why they go far. And also going to be how he controls his minutes. And remember, Andrew, when we go into these games here in North America, besides the dome games, the ones that are going to be outdoors, it is going to be sweltering heat, like 30 plus, 35 plus degree weather. So these guys had to be in tip-top shape coming into the World Cup, whether you're Canada or Curacao or teams in between that, playing in Mexico, USA, and Canada for that matter.
Yeah, well, certainly does some of those games in the States. Well, don't worry, FIFA's just added in more hydration breaks, brought to you by Gatorade or whoever else they're going to be. Powerade, excuse me.
Careful.
Hey, Mo, get the earplugs ready for Friday night, pal. Thanks for doing this. Let's catch up again soon.
I thank you so much, Andrew. And I think Saturday morning will be the first Stanley Cup parade. They win that. It'll be the second one, but it'll be the first one of the weekend.
Yes.
And then there'll be another one Monday morning if they go up 3-1 back to Tampa for Game 5 next.
You know what? What's better than a Stanley Cup parade? 16 of them. So let's see if they can get number 2 coming up.
It's like Krusty Land, you know? It is.
Take it easy, dude. Always great having you on the program.
Better. Take care, man.
All right, there is Moe Khan from Montreal, and Mo's getting ready to broadcast the soccer, the upcoming CEBL season, of course, working behind the scenes with the CFL. Very busy guy. Hey, just before, we've got Murat coming up in a minute. Reem, what's your take on Laine moving forward? Like, do we see him be a significant contributor again in the NHL, or is this a guy that just had his star burned too bright too early?
Man, what a question. You know, does he become like a third line power play specialist? I mean, that guy has the craziest shot. Like, he would shoot the puck, your draw would drop. Like, remember we scored goals? Like, you could just hear Ray Ferraro, like, moaning to himself. Like, it was crazy. I was doing the same thing in the stands. I was there for every game for his first 2 seasons. So I think there's too much talent not to, but it depends if he's in the right situation. Where's his head at? I think he can get back. I mean, he scored 20 goals in 52 games this year. Surely he can help a team now. Like, the defensive play, I think there's a question about that. Our team's going to want that. You look at his plus-minus numbers. They're not great, but surely he could help a team with that kind of shot. Not everyone can shoot like that. Like, you need someone who can score goals, and he can do that. I think he can help a team.
Listen, completely underrated passer as well. But I guess the issue is that can he still play at that level? I mean, like, he hasn't been able to crack the Habs roster since getting healthy for the last number of months, and now isn't even traveling with the team. So I hope. Why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray for all you Jet fans and Laine fans?
If the next question is, should the Jets sign him? Like, yes.
That wasn't signed. Can he get back to being a contributing regular in the National Hockey League? We'll see what Murat has to say about that, as well as Much more on the Winnipeg Jets offseason coming up in just a second as Winnipeg Sports Talk continues. Princess Auto is a proud sponsor of Winnipeg Sports Talk, in a lot of ways synonymous with Winnipeg. Headquartered here in the Peg, founded here in Winnipeg, and now serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So while we wait for the Bombers to kick off, get ready for spring. Those projects on your list with great deals throughout the month waiting for you at your local Princess Auto, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West in the city, out in Brandon. And you can always shop online 24 hours a day at princessauto.com. Spring is just around the corner, and our friends at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli, Manitoba's power sports superstar, are ready to get this snow out of here. But before we do that, great end-of-season deals on sleds and snowmobiles that you can check out. But as we get excited for the snow to leave, great preseason deals on motorcycles of all brands, the best in ATVs and side-by-sides, not to mention golf carts for the summer up ahead as well. And it doesn't stop there. Amazing RV options for you to take advantage of the summer, and so many options when it comes to boats as well, in addition to outboard motors from Suzuki and Mercury. The best deals in town. That's how they've been in business as Manitoba's power sports superstore for 80 years. Pop out and see them in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231, and shop online today at their website at chudspowersports.com. April and spring are here, and Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are kicking it off strong with King Power event. Right now, you can save big on the batteries that you actually need this season. Lawn tractor batteries starting at just $37.50. RV and deep cycle batteries from $69.50, and heavy duty power like Group 27 and 78 DT starting at $89.50. Need serious cranking power? Check out their 13-inch stud post battery, $94.50 while supplies last. All in stock and all priced to move. Visit Manitoba Battery on the north side on Logan Avenue, on the south side on Dovercourt Drive, and get powered up for spring at Manitoba Battery, powering what matters. Check them out online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, lots to get to. We will have Dan Fink coming on the program with us a little bit later on. We'll set up tonight's Moose game. Murat Ates is ready to go. Reem, before we go, do we have seats? Are we going to?
Yeah.
Do you have anything to tell the people if they want to go to this Moose game tonight and grab the other pair we've got?
Okay, so there is a link in the description for cheap tickets for the Moose game, friends and family link. I'm not sure how many of those are bought up, but I am putting right now winnipegsportstalk.com/contests. It'll be live in a minute here. I'm just pasting it in and hitting save. If you want to enter, we'll do it after the show, and someone will get a pair of seats for tonight.
Yes, there you go. In the description, you want to bring a group of people, get out there. We've got a special deal for you at $17. Thanks to the team for getting us that link, our pal Dan Fink. And otherwise, we will be giving away at the end of the show. So Winnipeg Jets or winnipegsportstalk.com/contest if you want to enter in for that 7 o'clock start tonight. Let's bring in our good friend Murat Ates from The Athletic. We've got lots to get to with Murat. Murat, how are you today, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well. Just trying to keep some momentum going. Don't have an NHL rink to go to today, and trying not to go squirrely about all of that. But obviously, lots of Jets to talk about. You got Daniel Fink to talk Moose coming up too. So trying to sort myself out, but still so many Jets topics to talk about.
Yeah, no doubt. Listen, I've got a couple things that I want to get to with you even before we dive into a great piece right now waiting at The Athletic. Do want to mention, folks, that this segment with Murat brought to you by your local Prairie Toyota dealers and the Toyota Tacoma. Its standard I-Force engine boasts an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds. In fact, it's the most powerful Tacoma ever. So whether you're hauling gear to the rink or heading to an away game, you can tackle it with ease. And when it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. Murat, just before we get to the Jets, we were just talking with Moe Khan in Montreal, and I was asking about what had sort of happened to Patrik Laine. I mean, he's not traveling with the team. He's technically on IR. Sounds like he won't play again this season for the club. What do you make of the future for Patrik Laine in the National Hockey League? Is this a guy whose star burnt out too bright, too early, too fast? Or is there still more for Patrik Laine in the league as a contributor and a guy that can help teams win, and when his team gets to the playoffs, actually be in the lineup?
Yeah, I think the answer to that, and to be clear, I haven't spoken to Patrik Laine in like over a year at least, right? Like at this stage. But I think for me, my hunch is that Patrik Laine is the only one who can really answer that question. I think that he has the ability to contribute to an NHL team in that sort of specialized power play plus depth role that he played for Montreal. He still scored 33 points in 52 games last year. That's a viable NHL player. His underlying numbers aren't as ugly as you might expect them to be, right? He was never a play driver, but and I don't think he'll be a play driver, but he's not killing a team in terms of his possession metrics either. So for me, it's really about like, how much does he want this? What is his, like, I know he's been away from the game at different times as well. What is his health, both physically and mentally? What is the dream for him, and how committed is he to it as time goes by? But at 28 years old and capable of what he is on the ice, I think that he's still an NHL player in my mind. It's just a matter of where and what's the right fit.
Yeah, it'll be really intriguing to see what happens to him over the course of the offseason. Hey, did I hear correctly that the new general manager of the New Jersey Devils, Sonny Mehta, was an old blogging associate with you?
That is a fact. That is an absolute fact. And I texted him when he got hired just to sort of make the old reference. And say, hey, it's what a wild road we've led since that day. There's actually a couple of people in front offices who contributed to an analytics blog in, I don't know, 2006, 7, 8. Like there's several years, and that's kind of where I did most of my early years learning. And they're now scattered across front offices and staffs of, I think, 3 different NHL teams. And it's just been wild. It's been great to see Sonny have success and win Stanley Cups with the Florida Panthers. There's a Stanley Cup winner elsewhere on that blog as well. And clearly I've gone wrong in my life if all I'm doing is writing and whining and analyzing and nobody's asking me to make any decisions. So I'm lagging well behind my former blogging mates.
Oh, I'm just waiting until the chat gets a hold of this. I mean, we're going to get the Murat for GM movement going on right now in the city. Next time there's any sort of a potential of some sort of a move, that is really an interesting background story. And I can't say that I'm surprised that a lot of early adopters on a lot of those things that got into the trenches, that learned with some of the best, are making big impacts now. And obviously, Sonny Mehta getting the keys to the New Jersey Devils moving forward. But let's get to the Jets. And you've got a great piece right now. This is must read, folks, if you're a Jet fan intrigued about the offseason. How the Winnipeg Jets became a mushy middle team and 4 ways to break free. I think the most interesting stuff that we should talk about the most is the moving forward, Murat. But in a nutshell, I mean, is there something we can point to as to what took this team from being one of the best in the league to a team that is right now going into the lottery in the 7 hole?
I would look at the last time that Winnipeg, entered back-to-back seasons with some deep playoff hopes, and that would be the 2018 run where they made the Western Conference Final, the best playoff result of Winnipeg Jets history. And then the year that came after that, with all that mystery and intrigue about how they fell apart, phenomenal team. And they had they had Twin Peaks going on. They had Blake Wheeler leading the way. They had Dustin Byfuglien. They had a 30-plus group of players who drove results and dominated. And they had Scheifele at 25. And they had 6 players on ELCs or first contracts that were like genuine drivers of results, including Kyle Connor, Patrik Laine, Nikolai Ehlers, Jack Roslovic was still on an ELC. I believe Josh Morrissey was on his ELC. You had Trouba on, I think, his second contract. You had Connor Hellebuck for cheap. It had multiple waves. And what you've seen in the years from then to now is that Winnipeg's retained some of its key stars and key contributors, Morrissey, Scheifele, Hellebuck, and Connor. What they haven't done is built that next wave. Some of it left, right? Nikolai Ehlers left. Laine left, Dubois became Velarde. Roslovic's value was eroded. He was basically a throw-in in that trade. And so whittled down and then followed through with a whole bunch of trades of draft picks. So many draft picks out the door for players who didn't ultimately stay. Winnipeg sort of lost track of this second wave of top-end talent. And that's, I think, the big thing that makes me concerned about the Jets' ability to win with this current window. It's not that I don't think Hellebuck or Scheifele are great players or Morrissey's a Norris Trophy candidate most years. It's that I can't find that next wave of players to star behind them and Kyle Connor and to drive results on that second or third line to the tune of a championship team. And without so many draft picks and all that, I can't find Winnipeg's route to those guys quite yet either.
Well, as we look to try to drag them out of where they are right now, first things first, we do have the draft coming up on May 5th. We'll find out where the team is picking. Is it 1 or 2? Is it 7? Is it 8? Is it 9? Unlikely, without winning the lottery, that you have a player that comes in that immediately contributes. But how important is this draft selection, Murat, in your opinion, as it pertains to kind of the next step of avoiding the pitfalls of the last year?
Well, I mean, it could be as important as Mark Scheifele, former number 7 overall pick, if I remember correctly, right? Yep. Like it could be that special, but like there's some reasons, some really strategic reasons why you have to think of this pick as one of the most important assets in the Jets' arsenal right now. And it's not just that it's high enough, as we know it today, before the lottery, to be Winnipeg's best route to top-end talent. We know that the free agency market isn't kind to the Jets. We know that Cheveldayoff tries to make trades at times and no trade clauses get in the way of many of them. So what's left? It's got to be the draft. It has to be the draft or trades for like 22-year-old players who have a little bit of NHL pedigree. So that makes it important from a top-end talent perspective. The other thing is, it's not just the idea that this player could become a really top-end talent. It's the amount of years of team control. If you look at Winnipeg's drivers of success, forget about contracts, just think about wins. It's Connor Hellebuck, it's Josh Morrissey, it's Mark Scheifele, it's Kyle Connor. What do they all have in common? Drafted and developed by the Winnipeg Jets. Because if you get to Winnipeg, you have some reason to buy into Winnipeg, you have success in Winnipeg, you might stay. That number 7 overall pick, or whatever it is, has a way higher odds of remaining with the Winnipeg Jets organization than any of those like marquee players you hear talked about in trades, more than Pierre-Luc Dubois did when the Jets traded for him, more than Sean Monahan or Tyler Toffoli or whoever you want to go through and use it as an example. For me, it's not a trade asset. It's a foundational piece asset if you're the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, and I don't think that there will be any doubt within management that is the case. I mean, you can basically count that the Winnipeg Jets will be walking to the podium to make that pick, regardless of where they end up in the May 5th draft lottery, and that it needs to your point, become a foundational piece moving forward. They didn't have a second-round pick until the trade deadline. And they got one back, albeit not this year's. Thoughts on the value of the Sabres 2027 pick and what the Jets might be able to do with that in the offseason if they were willing to move it?
Yeah, I think Winnipeg's wholeheartedly willing to move that second-round pick that they acquired. Kevin Cheveldayoff hasn't said that exactly out loud, but he's made many subtle or not so subtle references to that second round pick, however we should choose to use it. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a for sale sign on that. So I tend to think that in the NHL, you could make a steady business of acquiring picks at the trade deadline and then trading them at the draft when teams get excited about players and about moving up. I think draft picks on draft day are really valuable. And I've just pulled out my article here because I know that in the story I come up with a few examples of recent picks for value similar to the Sabres second round pick. And you do get NHL players moved at the draft, right? Like the Kraken acquired Bobby McMahon from Toronto for a second and a fourth. He went on to score 14 points in 18 games for them down the stretch. Last year at the draft, Ottawa got 24-year-old at the time defenseman Jordan Spence from Los Angeles. He's playing a sort of a number 4 type of role for the Senators right now on a playoff team. Same draft, Washington acquired 23-year-old forward Justin Surdiff, who got 31 points in 73 games playing in their multiple six for depth picks as well. And okay, these aren't superstar level players, but they're a solid number 4, number 5D, middle 6 forwards who can play different roles. And if you're complaining about 35 points or whatever it is in a full season of play, just look at the Winnipeg Jets scoring leaders this season. They would have killed for another couple of those. So there are ways to help Winnipeg secondary scoring through the draft, through trading that second and whatever you got to package around it.
Now, the really juicy stuff is Route 4 with trade. But before we get to that, this is a draft and develop team. It by necessity. The free agent market is not kind to Winnipeg. They have to be able to, and that was the core. That was how they built that 2018 team. We went through all of those players. Those were drafted by Winnipeg. They were developed by Winnipeg, many going straight to the NHL, and they ended up making them one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. There's grave concern right now that the team has fallen off there. I'll go down to the last quote, which is sort of the money quote of this piece from an NHL source to you, that there is no development in Winnipeg. How do they reimagine their approach to young players to help them now and in the future?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a difficult question. I'm not going to portray myself as an expert in the development personally and professionally of 18 to 23-year-old hockey players. But I will tell you that quote from an NHL source is from somebody who knows about these topics. And it says source singular. Multiple NHL sources have told me that their view is that Winnipeg's development is just not up to par. And people with knowledge of Winnipeg's development have said this. So I take that very seriously, even acknowledging that I don't know all of the ins and outs, right? I'm aware of different communication that development staff has with their players throughout the year, some of the self-evaluations players need to do, some of the reporting processes. But what can you do to make an 18 to 23-year-old player reach the best version of themselves? That is a whole series of sciences that I don't have expertise in. Winnipeg needs to master them. It is the only way. Draft, develop. That's what you can do in a market that the free agency and trades are generally not working for you, with trading being limited by no trade clauses. Cheveldayoff has done well in trades when no trade clauses weren't involved. So from my point of view, the advantage to that being an issue they need to deal with is that there's no salary cap on player development staff. If staff is it, the spending shouldn't necessarily be a limitation. If it means having skills coaches, skating coaches, nutrition experts on retainer, that could be an advantage for Winnipeg. I'm aware of at least a few other clubs where they have these people on retainer. If a player wants to skate with somebody in August, specifically to work on their skating mechanics, they don't have to pay out of pocket for it. And my understanding presently is that Winnipeg Jets would have to do that, even in the prospect field. Talking to people around the league, they seem to have a little bit more going on in that regard, but there's no salary cap. If that's something that Winnipeg feels would improve the development of their players, that's an area where they could do a little bit more, I believe. Clearly to me, Winnipeg hasn't had success in this regard, and there has to be, a willingness to ask themselves difficult questions, go outside the organization for some of those answers and say, well, what is literally the best available practice in these situations? How can we be best in class? Not just because it could theoretically help these players become better versions of themselves. But if you're perceived as going the extra mile for those players, I think it might have a role on player retention in the long run as well.
Well, I agree with you. And it's not just, what they're doing after players are drafted. It's also the names that you're picking. And I mean, listen, Winnipeg was lauded, rightfully so, for what they did early on. I mean, you go from Scheifele to Trouba to Morrissey to Ehlers to Kyle Connor to Patrik Laine. I mean, it was just hit. After that, it's Vesalainen, it's Ville Heinola, it's Chaz Lucius, McGroarty, Lambert, and Barlow, albeit Barlow kind of heating up going into the playoffs for the Moose, which is a nice little development lately. I would imagine a full review of amateur scouting and what they're doing is a big part of that before these players even get into the organization.
100%. I mean, incredible run that you just detailed. And beyond the first round, those teams were pulling players too, right? Like,
Connor Hellebuyck.
Andrew Coppert, Connor Hellebuyck. Like, they were having success in that regard. And so there's a moment there in that early Marcel Como era where you got to the point where, the Jets picked him, he must be good, right? Like, there was that kind of confidence. I don't know that they have that track record now. I've done my best to take an analytical approach. There's people who've written, based on what pick you have, what's the likelihood that this player becomes a 100-game NHL player or 200-game NHL player? Because we know number one or a top 5 pick is more valuable than a top 10 pick, is more valuable than a 30th overall pick, all that sort of stuff. And we also know the Jets have traded away an awful lot of draft picks and that they haven't picked higher than 10th, and that was Cole Perfetti, and they did hit with Cole Perfetti. Those other first-round picks that you just named would kill for Perfetti-level production, I think. So the analysis that I've been able to do in that, just going through old people's research, or people's old research, not old people, is that Winnipeg's actually done almost average in terms of producing NHL players for the picks that they have had. They just haven't had enough picks. Their big problem is that many of those 200-game plus players are working for other NHL teams right now. Like Jonathan Kovacevic lost on waivers, became a top 4 defenseman eventually. I think that there's an interplay in that. So yes, Winnipeg needs to be better in terms of the picks that they're making. I think that the issue is kind of what happens after. But I don't think you can have issues in either regard. You got to be best in class on both fronts if you're looking to win from the market that is the Winnipeg Jets.
Now, Murat, the most interesting, I mean, the entire piece is great, but where it really gets kind of fun and creates a lot of barroom talk and discussions and stuff on hockey chat boards is Route 4. And this is a question that I'm not sure there's a huge appetite to do, but at some point you might be forced into it or maybe be proactive. And that, of course, question is, what if the Jets did trade a core player? Thoughts on the pros and cons of moving off of one of the players that has committed to Winnipeg to stay here and, still continues to be, even more so than in most other spots, massive parts of any success the team has?
Yeah, I mean, the Jets essentially have 4 players who fit that bill. That'd be Kyle Connor, whose $12 million a year contract kicks in this next season. And then Scheifele and Hellebuyck with their matching $8.5 million extensions. I count Josh Morrissey in that regard too, though he's just got, I think it's 2 years left on his deal. I think of him as just so key and foundational, and more so than Captain Adam Lowry, whose 5-year, $5 million a year is about to kick in. I don't think that that's one of those foundational. I mean, he's a foundational person for the Jets, but I don't think that that's a huge asset if you go to market with that. Winnipeg's in a unique situation, and probably one of the reasons why it was so willing to change how it does business and give Kyle Connor so much money in the form of signing bonuses, and the downstream impact is it makes him basically buyout proof. They really have. Kyle Connor is the only one who can determine when he would leave the Winnipeg Jets contractually. Buying him out would be too expensive no matter what he becomes, like 6 years from now. One of the reasons they're willing to do that sort of thing is they need desperately, if they want to win, to have top-end talent. You can criticize these players. You can say they're imperfect in this way or that way, but they help you win, and they're star-level offensive producers in Kyle Connor's case. I think that there's extra impetus on Winnipeg to retain those players, and the con to moving one is you're saying, well, you were one of the few that stuck, right? Nikolai Ehlers didn't stick, and you can go down, Pierre-Luc Dubois didn't stick. They could have helped us win, but we had to move on from them. You chose us. Well, here's what we've done with your loyalty. I think that's the con. The other con is the moment you move, say, a Connor Hellebuck is probably the moment that you wish you had a goalie as good as him, or you could say the same about those other players. And then the pro is, well, they're your only real route to getting a haul asset-wise. And in some cases, you'd have to make the right moves and get fortunate. But in some cases, you can squint and almost imagine Winnipeg's route to winning beyond them. For example, Connor Hellebuck is roughly at the age where Carey Price's numbers or Henrik Lundqvist's numbers began to drop off. He's clearly in the mood to win, whether it's in Winnipeg or elsewhere. You might be able to move him and patch your second line center, get other assets elsewhere that help. And then maybe you're signing kind of an average NHL netminder to play behind that. Can you imagine that guy someday gets hot and you're better off because you made that move? You got to squint. Hellebuck's the best that there is and has played at a high level despite this season for a lot of years now, but it's possible. It's worth exploring, at least for our perspective, right? Like, I think teams have to look under these rocks. And then you can go player by player too. I think the other one that you might find some value in is Kyle Connor, who I think it's an absurd thought to so many people because he can do things that nobody else can. Best cutbacks, best hands, best like sort of killer instinct around the next. He's incredible offensively. You might say that, well, you can recreate him in the aggregate because his defensive impact isn't so good. Scheifele, though, like, can you trade Kyle Connor and then survive that with Mark Scheifele? I don't know that you can. There's a lot of things to think about, and I'm not portraying, though, trading a core piece is the only route forward for the Jets. I don't think they're going to take that route regardless, but I think pros and cons and thinking it through like we did in that piece, I think that season has arrived in Winnipeg.
Two-parter. First off, when you were there, what did you make was your interpretation of what Connor Hellebuck had to say? And if they were forced to or decided to go down that road of exploring a Hellebuck deal, like, not only is he great, he's got the Vezinas, he's got the Hart Trophy. To me, he has one of the best contracts in the league, especially if you realize Bob just played till he was 40 and may still continue to play. 5 years left at $8.5 million for a guy that's delivered 3 Vezina trophies, to me, is a very unique asset in that whoever is getting that player has not only an established star, but also cost certainty. So 2 parts for you on Helly.
Okay. Gathering myself, remembering the 2 parts. Pardon me. So I think one of the best routes to winning in the NHL is to have a superstar and a value contract. Like, you look around at the winners, and I think that the Florida Panthers, you can talk about taxes and all that sort of stuff. Having like an ultimate play driver in Alexander Barkov or a Matthew Tkachuk or what have you, just signed to manageable money, I think that's a big deal. I think in Colorado, Nathan McKinnon, you just about can't pay that guy enough. Connor McDavid in Edmonton, same kind of deal. Like, if you look particularly through an analytical lens at the value you get from these guys for what you pay them, the talent is so rare at that top few player in the league type of level that having them under contract is the best way to be set up to win. It's the other places where often teams will waste their money. So for Winnipeg, the closest thing you have to that is Connor Hellebuck, who in a Hart Trophy winning year, $8.5 million is ridiculous value for the Jets. And if you want to pitch Winnipeg as a winner, even though goaltending is volatile, and even though I can imagine squinting my way to other ways to win, and maybe he's a great trade asset, et cetera, like, he's your ace. He's your number one in a spot. And as long as you believe he can deliver at value before aging or whatever happens erodes that value from him, winning depends on an elite player on that kind of money. And then just kind of just reading the room in the conversation that we had from him last week, I think it's clear that that was going to be an interesting conversation, almost regardless of what happened. PR told us the night before, well, he might leave early or might not be available for us that day or what have you. And ultimately, he was the last player who spoke. He came to us almost directly from his exit meeting with management and coaching. I think he was on a phone call between those two items. And something was off fairly immediately, I thought. I thought it was very interesting that he sort of brought up the non sequitur of I want to be here, but I don't know if other NHL players do. My immediate read was, hey, was that just a conversation you had with Chevy, let's say? Like, is it possible that you said, make us better, and they said, hey, we're trying, but no trade clauses get in the way? It was very clear from the get that either he had said stuff to fill Chevy's ear, Chevy had said stuff to fill, like, to really make him think, or there'd been quite a back and forth before he even spoke to us. The rest, it was complete candor. The guy is sick of not winning, and I don't think he put Winnipeg in an ultimatum. I don't think we should take this as the last stand of Connor Hellebuyck in the Winnipeg Jets, but it did really, really feel to me like his message was, do what you can, get better. I am not here indefinitely. And that continues to be my interpretation, even as Arniel and Shoveldayoff kind of played that idea down on Monday.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, I didn't think he said anything that was incorrect. I thought as he always is, I mean, he's frank. He doesn't have much of a filter, and he tells you, what he's thinking. Although that 7 or 8 second pause was maybe spoke as loud as anything that he said, because he didn't want to just boom, like he was a little more reserved, and then said what he said. The fact of the matter is that Connor Hellebuyck, even like today, after a down season by his incredible standards, still has a unique value. And I mean, I know there's a number of people that have pointed out the Florida Panthers, a team that, has a $10 million goalie coming off the books. And what would the value of a team like that to get a guy that they could plug in to a championship contending roster, despite what happened to them this year, for another 5 years at $8.5 million? And what might the value to that be? And then, of course, the question is, well, it's great you bring all those guys. Can you survive without Connor Hellebuyck?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can do some fantasy hockey with that, and you can say, well, geez, Anton Lundell would be a wonderful second-line center going forward. Real tough minutes player, lots to like in sort of his two-way impact. Florida's got the pick right after Winnipeg in the first round, the number 8 overall as it stands today, I believe. And, like, boom, that's a huge part of the package. Whatever your piece is of choice, you can start playing fantasy hockey. And then you're thinking, well, what does that leave Winnipeg to do in net? Are they signing Stuart Skinner to a $5 million type of deal, and knowing that the Edmonton Oilers were never quite able to trust that player in the playoffs? Like, if you go through the list of free agents, you cannot obviously replace Connor Hellebuyck's value on the free agent market. There are teams who have tandems that spend not very much money, like the Avalanche with Blackwood and Wedgwood or what have you, and they get good goaltending, but it's just difficult to find any one route to a goalie as good as Connor Hellebuyck has been, because he's been the best at his job for so many years in a row. So yeah, you'd be playing with fire, I think, to make that move, not knowing what would come in behind it. So I think it's one you only make if you're the Jets, if you feel that you absolutely have to.
The other two big-time players of the core are longtime Jets, Mark Scheifele, Josh Morrissey. I listen, we listened to Hellebuyck live on the show last Friday. We went late, we saw it, and then I came back, and I don't know, I was sort of like, I guess maybe I'd read so many of the quotes and I was still processing it. But I've always thought that when push comes to shove, the linchpin of this core moving forward or being broken up is actually Josh Morrissey, and it's because of the timing of the contract. Like, if the team has a terrible year next year and he's not sure that he wants to stick around, that's an asset you pretty much have to move, and I think that would kickstart everything. All bets are off if all of a sudden Hellebuyck says, listen, I'm not coming to training camp and you need to find somewhere else for me to go. That does it beforehand. But the value of Josh Morrissey and Mark Scheifele, and could this team, much like I asked about Hellebuck, but, you know, to a different extent, could they survive, get by? Could they be better? And how long would it take to be better if you traded one of those two individuals?
Yeah, I think the important bird's eye view of this is that these four players are really friggin' good. And if you want the Winnipeg Jets to win, you need more than four players who are as good as they are, right? Like, that's the problem. It's not that they have these four players who are imperfect but great. It's that they don't have two or three more players on this level. But for me, like Josh Morrissey has told me before, you know, he hopes to retire a Winnipeg Jet. Would another year of this kind of misery change that? Who knows, right? I don't know the answer to that. I think the expectation for him is that he's wanted to be a forever Jet, and geez, what a world it would be if the Jets were just so bad that he changed that angle. That's an interesting one for me too. When I think of those four players, I think of Morrissey and Scheifele as the least replaceable, as good as Hellebuck is, and the reason for that is I think Morrissey is, you know, a good bet to be a top 10 defenseman in the world in any given season. He finished fourth in Norris Trophy voting last year. Obviously, he's not going to, well, I think he's not going to finish that high this year. I don't think he'll finish just outside the podium like that. But he's sustained an elite level of play for several years now, and I think that that's going to happen again. I cannot imagine Winnipeg's route to a player like that without Morrissey. Scheifele, similar. I think that he drives that offense more than Kyle Connor does. And I think Kyle Connor's defensive deficiencies are a little bit bigger than Mark Scheifele's are. They get looped in together because they always play together. Even analytically, models can't split them sometimes because they play almost 100% of their minutes together. So, but if you ask me, I think Scheifele is more important to Winnipeg's offensive and defensive success than Kyle Connor. I don't think Winnipeg can afford to give away a 40-goal scorer, like, to be clear, right? But you can at least daydream about a trade like what Florida did, where a similar player to me and Jonathan Huberdeau was moved along with a great defenseman in Mackenzie Weegar, but they got Matthew Tkachuk back, and the two-way impact, that Tkachuk's offense is great too, but the two-way impact helped that team. Hellebuck too, just because every once in a while teams find goaltending in unexpected places, even though that's not the norm, you might replace that. I just don't think that Winnipeg has a route to replacing Morrissey or Scheifele, and whatever they do, I struggle to think that they've got a chance if those two guys are moved.
Murat, awesome conversation as always. Appreciate you jumping on with us. Lots of great comments in the chat, including, as I expected, people saying Murat for GM. So there you go. You've got a lot of support amongst the community. You have a great one. Best to the family and your young one. I will look forward to chatting with you soon. More on the offseason, and we'll get closer to knowing where the Jets are picking and can start diving into that, and who knows what might happen in the meantime. Have a great one, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for enduring my monologues. Thanks for the great questions and chats.
Great stuff. There's Murat Ates. Folks, get over to The Athletic. This is why you subscribe. The latest piece from Murat, which is the story of the offseason. How the Jets became a mushy middle team and 4 ways to break free. It is up right now. All right, we're going to get ready for this game tonight. Coming up with Dan Fink in a minute. But folks, the Tri-Hospital Dream Lottery is on right now in support of the St. Boniface Hospital, the Health Sciences Center, and the HSC Children's Hospital. You will have the opportunity to win the biggest grand prize ever, one of 5 dream home packages, or $1,350,000 tax-free cash. But there's so much more than just the biggest grand prize ever. We have 43 early bird winners and more than $400,000 in bonus and early bird prizes right now if you jump on. And in all, the most prizes ever and the most to be had. 1,550 prizes to win, totaling over $2.3 million. And again, it's all in support of our big three hospitals, St. B, HSC, and the HSC Children's Hospital. What you want to do is get over to tryhospitaldream.com. You'll see our good friends, Joy Ello and Sarah Orleski, on the cover, and get your tickets there. Don't forget to also get in on the 50-50 plus, the unlimited summer jackpot where the winner takes half, the extra cash plus options. But get your tickets in now. You'll be in for the grand prizes, every single bonus, every single early bird prize. Never a better time to support Manitoba's hospital than right now through the Tri Hospital Dream Lottery. Get your tickets at tryhospitaldream.com or your local Red River Co-op location or London Drugs location. We got 3 great games in the NHL tonight. I'm going to be at Canada Life Centre watching the Manitoba Moose. But if you are looking for a great spot to get together with your gang for NHL playoff action, head over to your local Boston Pizza. All the games on all the screens, ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. And if you are staying at home, you can always get it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. Also want to shout out the gang over at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. They're getting ready for another great summer of world-class fishing out at Aikens Lake. If you're looking for an amazing fly-in fishing opportunity where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens Lake is that spot. And as amazing as the fishing is, the hospitality of the Turan family and the Aikens team is even better. I'm going out at the end of next month to start the season. I cannot wait. Find out more today at aikenslake.com on availability and options for the 2026 fishing season. And cannot forget our pals at Breezy Bend, golf season coming up. I think we're hoping to open up on the weekend, weather permitting, of course. This weather today is going to certainly be nice for it. Hosting the big senior tournament this summer. If you're thinking about a long-term golfing home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, find out more about Breezy Bend. Go to breezybend.ca today or give them a call at 895-7205. Our pal Corey Johnson would love to talk to you about everything they've done on the course, in the clubhouse, and around the grounds over the last 15 years to make Breezy the spot for golfers of all skill levels and all ages. All right, let's get ready for puck drop tonight. It is playoff time for the Manitoba Moose. Dan Fink joins us now. Looking forward to call his first Calder Cup playoff game in a couple years. Dan, what's going on? How's the buzz around the building and the squad going into game 1 tonight?
Yeah, it was great walking into the rink today. Big smiles on everyone's faces. Was talking to Mark Morrison at morning skate. He said, hey, everyone's here like a half hour earlier than usual. Tyrell Bauer comes up for media, walks in, big grin on his face. He says, hey, guys, this is the best day of the year, better than Christmas Eve. So there's a lot of excitement around the building right now. It's great to see some of the buzz around the city at the moment with the Moose heading into a big week here, trying to capture this playoff series and move on to face the Grand Rapids Griffins. But don't want to get ahead of ourselves because this is a tough matchup in the Milwaukee Admirals that the Moose are going to be facing down in this best-of-3 series.
We do have a special WST deal for tickets. It is in the description of this video. If you don't have your seats yet, click on that. Join us down at Canada Life Centre for game number 1 of the Calder Cup playoffs between the Moose and the Milwaukee Admirals. Dan, while you're here, I'll ask Remo if you can. Remo, let's get the clean lines up and take a look at the way the lineup is looking for Mark Morrison. Man, we spoke with Mark yesterday on the program with so many bodies in. I think the toughest decision he had is that who was going to get the call to play for the Moose tonight. And, you knew that Braden Yeager and Brad Lambert were going to be coming into the lineup. What's interesting, Dan, while we get this graphic up, you look at that fourth line right now, it's Yeager, Lambert, and Lucas Wallin, who really has made a pretty nice impact and impressed a lot of people in his first 6 games as a pro.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see where things shake out heading into once they get on the ice there for warmups to see who's actually in all those spots. But I mean, for Lucas Wallen, I mean, over these past number of games, I mean, he's acquitted himself well. He's a guy who works hard, and that fits in nicely anywhere you're going to go. Coaches are going to enjoy a guy that gets into the forecheck. And if you saw his first AHL goal in the last game of the season there, it wasn't anything pretty. He just got in after the puck, created a turnover, and then banked it in off the netminders. So that style of play is going to help out in the postseason. Like you were saying, Coach Morrison has an embarrassment of riches of who he can play in those spots, whether it's Jacob Julian or Fabian Wagner, Tyson Empey, if you want a little more grit. So there's lots of options there. Obviously, it's a very short series, so we won't see too much rotation, obviously, that max 3 games over this next little bit, but that depth for the Moose is certainly important. And as you kind of look at those lines there, a lot of that based off of the last time the Moose were out, there's not a lot of weaknesses in that forward group. They all have their own strengths. They've all been groups that have worked well for the Moose. And I think at times for Manitoba this season, that's been the challenge. They haven't been able to settle on lines that are successful any given night. They had that Gustafsson-Shaw-Dewar line that was driving the bus for a long time, but they couldn't necessarily find the combination in behind them, whether it was injuries or call-ups, things like that. Well, then with that top group kind of sparsely handled as Dewar was up with the Jets for a bit and then Gustafsson was injured. Well, then the Zhilkin, Fogimo, Anderson, Dolan line got together and they were a consistent group. And then late in the season, they hit on the Ford, DiGiuseppe, and Barlow unit. And that group's been humming right along and was a big part of their finale win in Iowa. So for the Moose, getting 3 groups that can really work together, and then maybe add in some skill with Jaeger and Lambert, and things look pretty nice. But again, that Milwaukee team, they're going to need that depth just because of what they bring to bear.
Now, this is all subject to change, but for you podcast listeners,
you can see me hedging.
Rewan, just pop that back up there for a minute. And listen, things could change in the first 5 minutes. I mean, from the morning skate, we're expecting Gustafsson with Dewar and Shaw, Jad with Zhilkin and Fagemo, and Ford with Barlow and DiGiuseppe, and then Jaeger and Lambert with Wallin. Shout out to the man on the Moose, 24/7, 365, Dave Manouk for these. Ashton Sautner and Terrell Bauer, Isaac Phillips and Cale Clegg, Dylan Anhorn and Dawson Barteau on the blue line, and it looks like Milic will get the start. The one thing that really does stand out to me about this lineup, and you sort of alluded to it, is just the depth. Like, this is not a team that relies just on one line. And on any given night, Dan, let's just say that these were the four lines as put together and as they rolled out. There's just as likelihood of getting big performances from a Jaeger or a Ford line than it is the others. But also, you have some guys that have done it at this level before. In particular, Fagemo, who's been an elite AHL scorer, and Phil DiGiuseppe, who's coming off winning a Calder Cup last year.
I think the important thing to remember, too, is as folks look at however the Moose end up posting their lineup later on today, is there's no second line, there's no third line, there's no fourth line. These are just the lines. And I think that's given some fans consternation at points throughout the season. I mean, this team literally at points of the season just rotates whatever line they put first, and whatever Mark Morrison feels like putting up that is that top group. And just because that's where they're listed doesn't mean those guys aren't playing power play minutes, things like that. But it's that forward depth that is going to have to lead the way. I mean, you look at the Milwaukee Admirals, they've certainly got an outstanding decor. When you look at guys like Ryan Ufko, who had outstanding success with the Nashville Predators to close out the season, when you look at a veteran guy like Jordan Osterley, who stepped up in a massive way when Ufko went up to the Predators, you got a guy like Kevin Gravel back there. They've got a very solid decor and a veteran goaltender in Matthew Murray. So that forward group's going to have to find a way to break through that big defense. And then on the Moose side of things, their D, a little bit of a smaller group. When you get outside of kind of Bauer and Phillips and Sautner to a degree, they're going to have to find a way to box out in front of the net, because this Milwaukee team is going to be driving hard towards the Moose crease all week long.
How big of a boost is it for this team to get the big boy, Tyrell Bauer, back in the lineup?
Well, just from that last point, it's huge. I mean, one, he's a massive leader for this team. Two, I think everyone plays a little bit bigger when big number 2 is out there, and he's got your back. And 3, he is a guy that can clear out the front of the net. And that's massive because, like I said, you get guys like Zach Leroux and Reed Schaefer that they're just going to go straight to the net. That's how this Milwaukee team generates offense. They're going to crash the net. Those D-men are going to siphon pucks through towards the goal. So your goaltender, whether it's Thomas Milic or Dominic DiVincentis, has to be able to see that puck. Otherwise, you're going to have a tough time over these next couple of games. And then on top of that, I mean, realize I'm branching away from Bauer here, but the Moose are going to have to keep this series 5-on-5. If they can do that, I think they got a real good chance. If all of a sudden it becomes a special teams track meet, that's going to tip in Milwaukee's favor, as they were arguably the best special teams team in the AHL this season.
Yeah, just quickly on the visitors. I mean, this is Nashville's team. Nashville's not in the playoffs. I mean, do we know much about the lineup from Milwaukee, and will they be getting a bunch of help back from the parent club now that they're also making tee times?
Oh, yes, Huss. Oh, yes, they did get a lot of help back. I mean, in total, it's a bit skewed just because they had a couple of guys up there for the last game of the season, but they got 6 players back from the Nashville Predators. And you look at a first-round pick, or 2 first-round picks, in Reed Schaefer and Zach Leroux, 2 guys that you love to have in your lineup come playoff time. I mean, Leroux is just, he is a mucker and a grinder with the best of them. He was a point-per-game player just shy of in the AHL this season. Reed Schaefer as well, just below a point per game in the AHL this season, just around that 30-game mark because they played so much time up with the big clubs. So, you look at a couple of guys like that. Ryan Ufko, one of the best defensemen in the American Hockey League. I mean, he's a big reason why Milwaukee had such a good power play this season. So that's 3 big additions. Oh, on top of that, another first-round pick in Joakim Kemmel, who can really rip it from the circle on the power play. So they got some big additions back from the National Hockey League. But like we've been talking about, the Moose have had their additions as well. When you look at a pair of first-rounders in Braden Yeager and Brad Lambert, and then, of course, Elias Salamonson being assigned today, though he was skating in a non-contact jersey.
Yeah, we'll hope that Elias can get into the lineup. But great just to see him back on the ice after that injury he suffered towards the end of the Winnipeg Jets season. And obviously he'd be a huge boost for the club on the blue line. Last line of defense is your goaltender. You want your goaltender to be your MVP. Thomas Milic was the Moose MVP this year. Just thoughts on Milic getting into playoff start.
Yeah, second go-round in the Calder Cup playoffs for Thomas Milic after leading the Moose to the postseason in his rookie campaign. So this won't be unfamiliar territory for him now. And you know what? You look at some of his work throughout the season, whether you're looking at some of his best hockey in November and March when he was a contender probably for AHL Goaltender of the Month, career high in wins, shutouts, goals against average, save percentage. The list goes on. At times during the season, he was ranked among the top 10 in both those categories in the American Hockey League. So he's a guy that knows playoff hockey from his time in junior and a little bit in the pro ranks. He was unbelievable in Norfolk last year in the playoffs. He was nearly unbeatable, lost a couple of games, 1-0, things like that, but carried his team to a couple of shutout victories for the Admirals in a couple of those playoff series. So he's a guy that brings his best hockey this time of year. And you look at what the stability and I think the calmness that he can bring to the Moose crease. That's an important thing. But the flip side is he's going to be dealing with a lot of traffic, and that's going to be on him and his defense to kind of battle for that space in the crease and make sure he's able to see the puck.
Puck drops just after 7, Canada Life Center, game 1 of the series. And Dan, what do we go? Game 2 Friday, and then a best of 3 deciding game on Sunday, if possible. Are they all 7 o'clock starts, or would the Sunday game be earlier?
2 o'clock on Sunday. Yeah, 2 o'clock on Sunday, but 7 o'clock for tonight and on Friday. So obviously love to see as many people down at the rink as we can pile in there. It's you know what, the energy that the city can bring in the playoffs is unmatched. So no matter how many people are in the building, we know that they'll be bringing the noise, and the Moose will certainly feel that. But hey, you got an empty spot on the schedule tonight. Be sure to get down to Canada Life Center. Tickets all available pretty much where you want to be, where you want to watch that game from. But this is going to be some great hockey, Huss. And these two teams know each other well, and we've seen some great playoff series between them. It's going to come at us fast. I mean, if there's one thing the Moose learned from that series in 2024 against the Stars, you cannot get off to a slow start. So you're going to see two teams that understand the situation they're in and are ready to lock, load, and get at it tonight.
Well, I will be locked in the building tonight. I hope many of you Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners are as well. Go into the description, take advantage of that special offer for tickets. And Dan, here's to the first of many calls for you, these Calder Cup playoffs, and a win tonight to get on the verge of potentially being able to end the series earlier and then get ready for Grand Rapids on Friday. It all starts tonight just after 7.
Yeah, that's a heck of a prize waiting for the team who wins this series on the other side. And hey, as I've said all through the second half of the season, all roads to the Calder Cup, if you start in the Central Division, lead through Grand Rapids. So the first step, got to pick up a win here tonight. We'll see how the Moose fare. And if you can't make it downtown, though, we'd love to see you. Be sure to check out our expanded coverage on 680 CJLB here tonight. We'll be starting up at 6:30. Christian O'Mell will have the pregame show. So really looking forward to that.
Right on, Dan. You have a great one. And hey, listen, I mean, you can't think about anything other than tonight's game. But like Ric Flair said, you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. This year
Absolutely.
in the AHL, that man was the Grand Rapids Griffins. Let's see if the Moose can earn an opportunity to go up against the league's best in the next round. Have a great call tonight.
Looking forward to it. Thanks. We'll see you at the rink.
Beautiful. All right, there's Dan Fink tonight, 7 o'clock. Look forward to seeing y'all down there for Moose playoff hockey against the Milwaukee Admirals. Our pal Pat Gregoire from Coolbet's going to jump on. We'll take a look at the games tonight in the National Hockey League and the Zurich Classic and the PGA. That is next as we keep on rolling with a Wednesday edition of WST. WST would like to thank our friends at Cleanline Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk throughout the Jet season. When we're doing the Winnipeg Jet lines, we do it with the gang at Cleanline, who are the leaders in Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. Your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience. And like the captain, Adam Lowry, has the back of his teammates, Cleanline has yours with 24/7 emergency services. So when you're in a jam at any time of the day, Cleanline has you covered. 204-500-2001 is the number. Write that one down, 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services from the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. You can find out more online at cleanline.ca. Spring is here, and it's time to get down to Winnipeg Sports Superstore Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway to get ready for it. The bike shop is open with incredible selection of bikes, including e-bikes that you'll want to check out. Of course, baseball season is here, all the equipment ready to go for the season, and tons of Toronto Blue Jays merchandise. All the soccer players are getting loaded up with the best selection of boots and unis around, not to mention tons of World Cup merch of Canada and the rest of the world just in time for kickoff. And for all you NFL fans, the draft is coming up in just a couple weeks. The NFL draft hats are all up on the wall, and for the first time in a while, they're actually really nice. So you can pop down there, get ready for spring, the World Cup, the NFL draft, Blue Jays season, and more at Royal Sports. 50 years plus, family owned and operated at 750 Pembina Highway. Much more to come on WST, but first, a big shout out to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, as we get to the Coolbet lines, let's team up with our pal Pat Gregoire from Coolbet, who's ready for another big week of calling the NLL playoffs on TSN. Patty, what's up, pal? How are you?
Doing good, Huss. Yeah, it's been quite the ride. It's been quite the last couple of weeks. It's only going to pick up here as NLL playoff starts this weekend. But when it comes to Coolbet, man, I mean, NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs. We get a little bit of a lighter week in golf, but to be honest, the Zurich Classic, I know a lot of people are like, man, not really big on that. The Coolbet gang a couple years ago went down to this tournament down in New Orleans.
Yes.
It's an unreal tournament, and they put on such a great show. And I like the team golf event, so I'm actually really looking forward to this tournament.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute, but there's alt shot, there's best ball, and then it's just, it's teams. So we've got some interesting matchups to do it. Let's get to the playoffs, though. Man, I mean, again, as Jets and Leafs fans, it's sometimes tough to watch knowing that you're not invited to the party. But man, has the first few days of the Stanley Cup tournament delivered. That Montreal-Tampa series, I mean, a war. Dallas, Minnesota has been crazy. And we got 3 games tonight, including the Pittsburgh Penguins with their backs against the wall, Pat. I'm on Pittsburgh. I got a bunch of Pittsburgh guys on my playoff draft. I have been demoralized by these first 2 games. Sid has gone 14 without scoring. Their power play hasn't been able to do anything. And credit to Philly. They're blocking everything and being very opportunistic with their chances. Tonight's game is basically a pick'em. -108 for Pittsburgh, -110 on Philly. I'm not giving up hope on Pittsburgh, but I probably will if they don't win tonight. And that's why I'm looking at the veterans. 87, 71 to step up tonight and get this win. Thoughts on Pittsburgh as a pick'em tonight in Philly on the road with their backs against the wall?
Is that not where Sidney Crosby is at his best, when the pressure is high, when his back is against the wall? And I get it. Yeah, he hasn't scored in whatever you said, 12 games, and it just has not gone their way. And maybe we kind of slept on this Flyers team. Maybe we didn't give them the well-deserved being that hot team heading into the postseason. But this is where they turn things around. I'm not saying they're going to turn things around and win this series, but they're going to make this thing a close one at least. And I think they get this one tonight. And if they don't get this one, it's probably going to be a shorter series. So I'm going to ride with the vets too. I'll probably sprinkle in some sort of Crosby and Malkin props as well. But for me, Huss, it's a do or die. And when have we ever really seen Sidney Crosby in these do or die situations fall short?
I'm with you. And it's funny, Sid, despite not scoring in so long, is the shortest number on will score. He's +190. What stands out to me is the second shortest number is Porter Martone, who's been in the league for 2 weeks. But the guy that I'm actually going to lean on for a goal tonight is Malkin. Malkin's got a great playoff record against Philly. He has 2 points so far while Sid's been cold. So Pittsburgh and a Malkin goal at +235 is sort of where I'm looking to start this off. Minnesota should be a nut house tonight. And this is going to be another later game. We're quite familiar with the 8:50 starts in the Central Division. Dallas got off the mat and got a win that they absolutely had to have to avoid being in a Pittsburgh situation going into this one tonight. But, man, it feels like the Wild have some momentum despite winning game 1 and losing game 2. I don't mind Minnesota at -133 tonight. You liking the Stars at +113 or the home squad?
It's hard to stay away from just the big number that you're getting on, or bigger number, I should say, that you're getting on the Stars, just because of how close these two teams are. But I do tend to agree. I think Minnesota, I think that place is going to be absolutely rocking. The number, or the prop that I like the most here is, and maybe it's more of a parlay piece that you put together, but when you're looking at the player points or the player props, the assist prop at least, when used -163 to get an assist, you're only getting a little less value. I guess it's just because such an Apple machine and not quite a goal scorer, but -187 for him to record a single point. So probably wouldn't bet the point number by itself. Maybe it's too close for that assist, but if you're building together some sort of player prop parlay, I think a Quinn Hughes assist has to be on the docket for that one.
You know what? I mean, he's such an integral part of that team, and especially the power play. I actually don't mind over 1.5 points for Quinn Hughes. Plus 260. And it's actually lower than Kaprizov, Rantanen, Robertson, Boldy. So I think there's some real value with Quinn Hughes on just 2 points in this game. And just one other note that really stood out to me. I was going through the goal props earlier. And, it's a group of the top three, the big three: Robertson, Kaprizov, Boldy, plus 122, 124, 126. You got Wyatt Johnson, Eriksson Ek. You got to go all the way down to the sixth player, Mikko Rantanen, plus 225. Now, I think a big part of that is he's missing Rupi Hintz right now, as the Dallas Stars are. But I was a little surprised. I'm not going to be on it tonight, but if you're looking for maybe a good value number, if you don't really have any skin in it, Mikko Rantanen at plus 225. They got to get that guy going. I mean, heck, he's barely ahead of Ryan the Rat Hartman at plus 230. So, interesting series. I'd love to get a total on hits in this game, because I would take the over on whatever that is. I mean, these teams are playing for keeps, as we've seen so far. And then we finish it up with the Ducks and Oilers. Pat, you know what's wild is that for the first time I can remember at any point this season, maybe this happened a couple times in the regular season, in the playoffs we usually think of games being a little tighter, a little more low scoring. The over-under for the Ducks game is 7.
I know. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. But that just goes to show you the two teams that are playing and the way that they play, the way that they defend, the uncertainty in between the pipes, but also the fact of the matter is just that there is a lot of offensive firepower. And when was the last time we've seen the Edmonton Oilers win a hockey game and Connor McDavid doesn't get a point, doesn't score? Like,
wasn't this year?
Yeah, like
literally,
absolutely.
They did not win a game in the regular season without McDavid getting a point, and they did it in game one of the playoffs, which I think where we're going for tonight.
Yeah, I think you have to stack the McDavid points. You got to even a Draisaitl, and who knows how actually healthy he is, but McDavid plus 106 for him to score certainly jumps out at me. The fact that his player, he gets goose egged in game one, and for him over 1.5 is minus 133. Over 2.5 is plus 215. So there's got to be some McDavid props on the card here tonight, or depending on who else they have skating on their line. I don't know if you've looked at the lines yet for tonight, if they're changing anything up or they're going to roll with the same lines. But I mean, Zach Hyman goal certainly looks interesting to me, to say the least.
Yeah, it looks like it's still McDavid with Hyman and Savoy.
Okay.
I don't think they're touching that Kapanen, Podkolzin, Draisaitl line.
No.
Maybe they'll move Jason Dickinson up to the number one center, and McDavid can go down to the third line after a very disappointing start to the playoffs. Where's Connor? I don't think we're going to be asking that. Okay, let's put something together here. Let's take a little bit of a bigger swing on some props. What do we think about over 1.5 for Quinn Hughes at plus 260?
Okay.
Over 1.5 for Connor McDavid at minus 133. Those together alone are plus 531. Now, do we want to keep it to the two later games? I mean, if we wanted to put in, I'm a little nervous about Pittsburgh right now, just because of how much of a problem that they've had in scoring. Do we want to maybe, I think this Edmonton power play might click tonight. What about a Leon Draisaitl goal to go along with the 2 points for McDavid and 2 points for Hughes?
I could go with that for sure. I definitely could get behind that for sure, Huss.
Now, so a Draisaitl goal. Wait, I'm in the wrong game here. Draisaitl goal is plus 127. Now, we'll have to get this in the exclusives, because with you can parlay different games, but the McDavid points and the Draisaitl goal are in the same game, so that will affect the number a little bit. But I mean, it's over 13-1 when we put it together that way. So, I mean, it'll still be, it might not be that high because that's a correlated number. But if those guys get the job done and we get 2 from Quinn Hughes, it could be a very, very good night. So why don't we do that? Draisaitl to score, McDavid 2 points or more, Quinn Hughes plus 2 points or more, and we'll be able to go tandem TVs for the late games and see if we can put together a winner.
I like it. And you know what? So you put that, we put that together. I like that. I'll put a Patty nose puck for that first game as well. I'm thinking a Crosby assist, maybe a Malkin goal and a Porter Martone point or something like that. I'll cook up a Patty nose puck for that first game. So at least people who want to get in on the action for that first game, at least there's 2 parlays for your option.
Yeah, I will be betting a Malkin goal on its own, and I will also be going on. By the way, I know we just got a better number on Pittsburgh. This is weird because it was 108 minus 110. Penguins now minus 105 and Philly minus 111. This is a great time. If you like Pittsburgh, you're very close to even money right now. So you can jump on that. And as I say, I'm going to be riding with Malkin tonight. But we'll put it in the exclusives on the left under Winnipeg Sports Talk. We're going to go over 1.5 for Hughes, over 1.5 for McDavid, and a big 29, Leon Draisaitl to score. Get a good number on that, and we will throw that up. All right. By the way, NBA playoffs, I will admit, I have not been paying that much attention other than seeing there's been a lot of blowouts, the odd upset. Are we just basically taking the points with all of the favorites most nights, or now that the underdogs are at home, taking the teams that are on the road?
Well, I mean, the Magic, their history of winning game ones in round one and then getting absolutely dog walked the rest of it is pretty intriguing to me. So I kind of like Pistons to bounce back there for sure. I don't know what the spread is, but that's one
favorites. They're 9-point favorites tonight.
I would absolutely hammer them tonight. I think, honestly, the only thing when it comes to the favorites, the only one that scares me is now, and it's not tonight. I think it's tomorrow's game, or maybe even on Friday, is the health of Wembanyama. It sounds like concussion possibly for him. And if he's out long-term, that could be absolute problems for the Spurs. But in terms of tonight, yeah, you're totally right. I think it's ride with the big dogs, but for sure the Pistons to bounce back and the Magic to find their level, which I don't have this stat in front of me, but it's their records in game one is something crazy. And then games 2 to 7 it's astronomical how much they fall apart.
We'll hit this tomorrow when we get ready for the NFL draft with Jake. But Knicks, after that loss, they're basically a pick 'em in Atlanta. I think that they'll bounce back on that. We'll see whether the Raptors can get a win. They're 3-point home dogs to the Cleveland Cavaliers. All right, let's get over to the Zurich before we wrap it up. This is the tag team event. It's like a tag team Royal Rumble of golf. For rounds 1 and 3 are play your own ball, you take your best score. Rounds 2 and 4 are alternate shot, which significantly changes things. I saw someone talking about the Jordan Spieth Haotong Lee pairing, and all I could think of is how Spieth, makes these crazy shots from terrible spots and gets him into these situations, and then Haotong taking the 10 in the Masters, and everything went with that. I will say that I am not looking forward to betting them. I will not be. But I have to tell you, and I thought the number would be shorter, but I understand why people are liking. This is sort of a name where some guys that maybe aren't household names can do well. How about our guy, Sudarshan Yelamajaru, along with Gerard, who's had a great season so far? They are 16-1. I am in on our guy Yella and his tag team partner.
Yeah, this is great. And this might go down as the most impossibly random group of all time, but there is a backstory to this. Ryan Gerard's partner and former college teammate, David Ford, had to withdraw out of this tournament just a couple of weeks ago. And I think we might be in a Wally Pipp situation for a guy, Old Yeller, because he actually is a better golfer and a better fit for this course. He ranks 8th in the field in ball striking, and he'll probably be one of the longest guys off the tee. And Gerard, you said it, he ain't no slouch either. He's currently ranked 33 in the world, ranked 4th in this field in strokes gained approach. And when you combine both their numbers together, it's even better. 1st in birdie or better percentage, 2nd in recent form, 2nd in par 3 scoring, 5th in proximity from 200 yards, and 10th in putting. So the fact that also, if you go to the exclusives, we know Pat Mayo takes this week off. So myself, Jake, and Finn said, let's put our own boost together. We boosted Gerard and Old Yeller up to 19-1. Best price in the market. I would still bet this thing at 15, 16, you name it, but 19-1, even better number here.
All right, so we're in on that. And it's funny, I already had them at 16-1. Shame on me for not checking the exclusives. I'm gonna have to top it up with a little 19-1
yes, you
on
are.
that. What anybody else that catches your eye? This is probably the most difficult tournament of the year to really handicap based on what we normally talk about. But is there a team or two that is gonna catch your eye outside of our head and our heart pick with our guy Sudarshan?
Yeah, a few more actually. I thought I was only going to go with 2, but I had to add 2 more. So Brooks and Shane Lowry, the all vibes team. I mean, when you look at their ceiling, when you look at their talent, they are by far the best team in this group. And even if they don't play all that great, their ceiling is also pretty low compared to a lot of the other guys. The only thing I'm nervous about this is these 2 lads having a lot of fun on Bourbon Street, but not taking this seriously. That's the only thing that scares me. But Lowry has played this tournament, has won this tournament multiple times with Rory. So we know that Brooks will be able to fill those shoes. And I think they're going to be in the mix 110%. 2 other groups that I like, 2 guys that I bet a lot on, Aaron Rai and Sahith Theegala, 18-1. Perfect blend of skill sets here. You got Rai, who's the ball striker and is super accurate off the tee, but he can't roll the flat stick to save his life. Theegala, awesome short game, crafty shot making ability, but he can't keep the ball in the fairway. So, in the best ball format, these guys are going to be great. It might be a little bit of a risk for alternate shot. But they played here together last year at T18, and Sahith Theegala was like half the player he was last year. He has been solid. I mentioned it last week. I wrote him last week. I think he finished just outside the top 20, but he's finished in the top 25 7 times, top 10 4 times, and he's only missed 1 cut. So I love that pairing. And then a little bit further up the board, I'm going, this is a tournament that Canadians really like because it's a practice and a tryout almost for the President's Cup team. So one of the Canadian teams that I really like, probably 2 guys, 1 guy who has played on the last 2 years. I don't want to say he's safe to make it again, but he needs to pick it up. And a guy that really is on the outside looking in. That's Mackenzie Hughes and Taylor Pendrith. And you want to talk about, Sonic the Hedgehog and Knuckles here. This is the combination right here. Pendy, masher off the tee, solid approach game. And then Mackenzie Hughes, the softest hands on tour, one of the best short game players, best putters in the game. And Pendrith has played this tournament twice, Huss. He's got a top 15 2 times. And he also finished just outside the top 10 with Corey Connors a couple of years ago. So I'll round out my card with Team Canada, baby.
Yeah, I have one other one, and I might throw a dime or something on those guys. I am going to throw 22-1. Penge, Marco Penge. He's been so good this year, along with Matt Wallace. You get a couple Englishmen together, mixing it up. That. I mean, this is the tournament where a few guys, I've heard of him. He's been pretty good this year. They get hot, they do their thing, and it is going to be very important to be able to bail your partner out when we get to those alt shots. But get to the exclusives if you want Sudarshan at 19-1. And it's all there right now. You can get round 1 odds as well, top 10s. If you do want to make a little more conservative bet, 3-1 for the Sudarshan and Gerard team to go top 5. and plus 188, I believe. Or sorry, plus 140 for a top 10. So that's what we're cooking up for the Zurich.
Yeah, what do you think about for parlay if we go Yella and Gerard?
Mm-hmm.
We go with your Penjay Wallace at 100. It's plus 100. Mm-hmm. And then do we want to go with one of the easy ones, or I guess easier ones with Brooks and Shane, or do we want to maybe take a Rye and a Thigala to round
Are we
out
talking? We're talking top 10s?
Top 10 or top 20? I mean, top 20. Penji's his group is 100-1. If we go top 10,
I didn't see. Sorry, I thought that just with the shorter there is top 10. So yeah. So listen, I guess the Brooks one's really short at 200. If we do Sidar Shan, you know what I think might be at Penji at 100. Why don't we do Ben Griffin and Andrew Novak? They're the defending champs.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
Let's do those. I'll ride with those. We'll just do all top 20s.
Okay.
Should get a pretty nice number for that. Gerard and Sidarshan, Griffin and Novak, Penji and Wallace, and I'm sure we can get that up in the combo cards before tee off tomorrow.
Yeah, and then already in the combo cards right now are Zurich Classic Super Boost, Fitzy and his brother, Fitzy and Brooks Lowry, both top 20, boosted up to 175. And I'm shocked we haven't even talked about it. But, obviously Fitz coming off his big win at the RBC. He's been playing really well. I was looking at Alex Fitzpatrick because I was like, you know what? Like, I haven't really heard much of him. Listen to his results as of late. So played the Hero Indian Open at the end of March, won that tournament. Won the Joburg Open, T16 at the Joburg Open, South African Championship, T14, T23 at the Kenya Open, missed the cut at the Qatar Masters, and then T16 at the Bahrain, and inside the top 20 at the Dubai Hero Classic. So brother Fitz is nothing to be walked over. And I mean, this is a guy that's an up and comer. He's obviously playing really well on the DP World Tour. And that's the reason why they're right there being the favorites with Brooks and Lowry.
Dude, little Fitz might be on the verge of getting a tour card with those results so far this year.
I know.
So anyway, something to note: they are the favorites at 10-1 to win the entire thing. And hey, on the way out, wanted to thank you again. Another great contest with Winnipeg Sports Talk and Coolbet. Congrats again to Mark Amp, and I sent you the pic. Got a chance to meet Mark.
That was awesome.
Long time lock shopper, WSTer.
Yeah,
and of all things, if you can believe this, we always joke that Winnipeg is like 1 degree of separation. It's like a big city, but it's also a small town. My buddy Mike that I was with, I said, I got to go meet this dude that won. I sent him a message. He's like, yeah, no problem. We get there. Mark Amp is his yoga teacher. Like, it's just such a Winnipeg. Yeah, there's the picture right here, the boys.
Oh,
great event, too. Great event. Yeah. Man, we had a lot of fun at that. And by the way, did you see Remis? So I just got tickets. I wanted to go and just enjoy it as a fan. We did some stuff with
press
them.
Row?
Yeah, Remis, we get this picture up one more time if you can't see. There's Remis.
No
on
way.
the broadcast right behind. Almost kind of got. I would have loved it if he got spattered with blood or something like that. That would have been just to see how he reacted. Good. But yeah,
I thought for sure, Huss. I thought for sure we were getting a sight on the broadcast or on the Jumbotron. You know, and they always show the celebrities when it's down in Vegas. And I thought it was the WST crew and it's you and Remis and the camera. But that's amazing. I saw the tweets. I saw the Facebook. Or sorry, the IG reels. I saw all that. Like, I was like, oh, that's great. The boys are down there. But I did not see these ones. These are
this picture's hilarious because he's like, it was right after a big takedown or something like that. Anyways, a heck of a lot of fun. Pat, we'll look forward to seeing you. When's your NLO game? That's Saturday night. It's Saskatoon and the Toronto Rock, or the Saskatchewan Rush, I should say. Are they still called the Rush?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's the
Saskatoon-
CEBL team that changed their name to the Mamba.
Yes, the Mamba.
That's another story entirely.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Saskatchewan Rush, Toronto Rock, Saturday night, TSN. They'll be at 7:00 Eastern, 8:00. 7:00 Central, 8:00 Eastern. Friday night there will also be a Vancouver Warriors, Halifax Thunderbirds game going on. So all those odds up at Coolbet right now. You can get your futures bets before the playoffs start. You can get your game lines there. And if Saturday night flipping through the playoff games, turn to TSN and you can hear my voice and look at my ugly mug for a bit.
Hey, just on the way out, I'm just pulling up the odds at Coolbet for the NLL. There's no real big favorite. You got 4 teams between 350 and plus 500. Where's the smart money? The Buffalo Bandits?
Yeah, it's hard to say it's smart money when in round 2 they're going to have to go up against the Vancouver Warriors. I think whoever wins that series probably is going to go on to the finals and win. But if you want to talk about smart money, I think Colorado at plus 250 might be the best bet here. They've been a little bit injured, but they're starting to get healthy before. And we talk about the Bandits being a wagon back-to-back champions. Oh, the last time the Bandits failed to win a championship 4 years ago, it was the Colorado Mammoth. So I think that maybe would be the value play, but
plus
having a hard time
250
going
just to get to the finals.
Yeah, 250 for the finals. And they don't have to play Vancouver or Buffalo until the final.
Ooh.
So I think there is some sharp money to be had. But if you want to go all out, plus 465 for them to win the cup, I don't know. I think you're better off choosing who you think for Buffalo or Vancouver, and then just take the Mammoth to win the at least their side of the bracket.
Patty, great stuff, pal. Thanks again for doing this. Appreciate it as always, and we will look forward to catching you on the tube on Saturday and talk to you next week.
Appreciate it. Thanks for everyone for staying cool, betting responsibly. Keep an eye on not just the combo cards, the exclusives as well. We'll have those ready to go. Wouldn't be surprised if by the time I get off here, Dog and the boys got them up.
Perfect. And tomorrow, Jake's going to jump on the program. They do have NFL draft odds up, and before round 1, we will dive into line movements. No surprise, Fernando Mendoza. You're not going to make a lot of money on that for the first overall pick, but a lot of other intrigue, and we'll get to all of that tomorrow. There are tons of options for the draft tomorrow. Pat, see you later, pal. Thanks for doing this.
See you, boys.
All right, there's Pat Gregoire at P. Greggy. And if you are a lacrosse fan, you definitely should be following Pat. He and the TSN team will be doing the playoff games on the weekend. And Remo, hard to believe. I don't know. It feels like it's a week early this year. But NFL draft, first round tomorrow.
Yeah, exciting stuff. NFL draft. Everything's happening now. Hockey playoffs. This is the time of year. Multiple TVs. So you're going to watch the draft with no phone so you don't get the picks tipped off. That's the new thing now. Watching it with no devices.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, because, it's all these insiders are just in a race to spoil it for you. So I am with you. We'll talk to Jake about that tomorrow. Should be fun. Tonight, though, it is all about the Manitoba Moose. And we've got tip-off tonight, or a puck drop tonight, just after 7 o'clock. Do you have a winner already, or are you just going to, execute that after the game? After the show and send the tickets out?
I was going to just do it right when we're done and just send them right away. I could do a quick thing right now if you want, but
yeah, we do have to get out and get this podcast up. So you know what we'll do is we'll tweet out the winner's name from the Winnipeg Sports Talk account and congratulate the winner. And again, if you want to get tickets, description of today's episode, both podcast and YouTube. If you want to grab a great deal on seats, $17, friends and family discount. Shout out to our pals over at the Moose for Hook It Up, Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. It has been a fun show tonight. Hopefully we'll see a bunch of you down at the rink for the Moose and Admirals. I will be there. Looking forward to it. Wish the Moose luck, and looking forward to seeing Lambert, Braden Yeager back in. I'm in particularly, I hope they play with Lucas Wallin, who, of course, just signed with the team after his NCAA season. He had a goal and 2 assists in 6 games for the Manitoba Moose. It looks like he's going to be in the lineup tonight. Huge thanks to all of our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, thanks to Pat for jumping on, Moe Khan, Dan Fink, and a great segment with Murat Ates on the upcoming offseason and the future for the Winnipeg Jets. That is going to do it for us, everybody. Enjoy all the action tonight. Tomorrow, we'll have much more on the Jets, the Moose game from tonight, the playoffs around the week. Raptors are going to be getting at it tomorrow. Jays are playing right now. So another packed edition of playoff-style Winnipeg Sports Talk tomorrow, starting at 1 p.m. Have a great one tonight. Go Moose, and we'll see you tomorrow on WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.